Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of race number 14 in Season 3 as we are at the first race in the round of 7 for Monday Night Racing, powered by Tufco Flooring, the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic, live from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. Hi, I'm your host, Taylor Perez, and joining me once again, as always, Justin Prince and our producer, Ryan Bauer, who's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Justin, we are at a track that's going to provide excitement as we kick off the round of 7 as 7 drivers try to fight for 4 spots before we get to the final few races of Monday Night Racing Season 3. A lot is on the line, and a lot of excitement looking forward as we head into Michigan tonight.
It's going to be a race where attrition can come into play, and this is the type of car where it's going to challenge the drivers to be the best of the best, because as some of the drivers described it, with this car, this separates the good from the great. Essentially separates your top 7 from those who could and should be inside that top 4 for a chance at a title. This is not going to be an easy race in any regard, Taylor, because this car, you have to fight with it, and this track, while you have a lot of space, you need to be smart when it comes to track position and what lines you run, as well as tire wear. All of that's going to be very critical to be kept in mind if you want to be one of the drivers who locks themselves into the championship fight and/or gets themselves in contention for the victory.
Patience, strategy, as well as making the right calls all throughout tonight's race will be the most critical factors for tonight as we take a look at the playoffs. Currently, Garrett Smithley, Adam Cabot, Rajah Caruth, and Max Kennan are your top 4 who are secured for that Final 4 at Miami in a couple of weeks' time. But drivers DJ Cumming, David Schildhaus, and Robbie Lyons are on the outside, looking and trying to fight, claw their way into that Final 4. And we're going to be speaking to one of those drivers here momentarily, DJ Cummings, who sits right there on the bubble, just 2 points out of that Final 4. And as you see, we still have one more race before we get to that Final 4 event. we head to Auto Club with the Xfinity cars before concluding the season with the trucks at Homestead Miami Speedway. We're going to take a quick dive here on Google Earth to Brooklyn, Michigan to visit Michigan International Speedway. Of course, opened in 1968, as of course this 2-mile circuit has provided many exciting fast speeds and amazing moments. Of course, one of the fastest tracks in the NASCAR Cup Series circuit. Currently, the fastest time held in the NASCAR Cup Series was held by Jeff Gordon with a 206.558 miles per hour in 2014. So a great high-speed track that's going to test the tires of these cars. And from 1987, we've always had some great racing at this track back then.
Yes, absolutely. Some great battling is in line for tonight, because when you think back towards that era, you think about great side-by-side battles and great opportunities for drivers to showcase what they can do. Here along the 18 degrees of banking in the corners and 12 degrees down the straightaway, down the front stretch rather, with 5 degrees down the back straightaway, it's going to be a busy time for drivers. You may see 2, 3, 4 wide even around this circuit today, because keep in mind, we are at the repaved version of Michigan International Speedway, the most recent scan on the iRacing service, which means the grip levels are going to be there for drivers to run the various lines, and that's going to play into drivers' abilities to be able to run around this circuit. The amount of fall-off, though, you have to keep in mind, Taylor, it's expected to be very significant as the night goes on.
It certainly is. And speaking of someone who's in a significant position, it's digital manager over at NASCAR. Driver of the number 10, it is from Westfield, New Jersey. DJ Cummings joins us here. DJ, you are in a very tight battle to get into the top 4 in that number 10 Ford. What can you look forward to going into tonight's race with this car and track combination?
Sure am in a tight battle. I think going into tonight, this is very much a survive and advance type of event with these 87s, because they're so difficult to drive. And luckily, with the setup we've got here, it's you're definitely driving it more off the right rear than you are off the right front, which is good, because it's you don't feel like you're plowing into the wall trying to get back onto the throttle, which is very nice. I don't mind that. So here's a little tire management. Be able to look for that going into tonight. But I'm honestly, I'm on the side of very glad we changed it from Darlington to Michigan, because I think we're going to have some pretty darn good racing here tonight.
And you bring up that change, of course, that came into play later on the day. Few different setups drivers have had the opportunity to try things out for. How did that in turn change your preparation for this race, to go from the tight confines of Darlington Raceway to the more wide open space of Michigan International Speedway, where you'll be carrying blistering quick speeds all around the circuit?
It's really, when you're driving at Darlington in these cars, there's really only one line that you can run to get a really fast lap. Here, a little different. You can run the bottom and see if you could carry a little more speed into the corner, or you can run it a little bit higher and carry it around and not waste the right side tires and carry a little more speed off the corner. So it really just comes down to which lane you feel more comfortable running and how much you're trying to conserve with these tires, depending on where you are in the run. So as far as preparation goes, I've been trying out both. I've been playing around with steering ratios, how much strength I have on my wheel, just kind of get a feel for what's going to get me the smoothest laps overall around the track to just be fast and consistent.
Well, DJ, before we let you go and get ready for qualifying here, is there anyone you would like to say thank you to and give a shout out to?
Sure. First and foremost, big thanks to my wife, Addison, who always supports me and enjoys loving what I do. Also, big thanks to Mr. Ford Martin for putting together my paint scheme here for tonight. The tribute to the Jeff Gordon, Bill Davis, Carolina Ford dealers car. Should be a really fun one. And then obviously big thanks to and just shout out to eNASCAR in general. It's just how much the eNASCAR brand has grown in the last year and a half, and how much it continues to grow. It's an amazing thing to be a part of, and I look forward to all the things and continued success that eNASCAR will have in the future.
Certainly is. We look forward to seeing what that holds for eNASCAR in the future. But that is DJ Cummings, driver of the number 10 eNASCAR Ford Thunderbird, as he is about to go out there and see if he can secure his spot in the Final Four in a couple of weeks' time. Well, Justin, we got to talk a little bit also about some other drivers who could be maybe a spoiler. You remember the last round, in the round of 10, we had two non-playoff drivers win their races, both at Homestead earlier this past week. And as we take a look at the practice times, currently Joshua Slate and the number 1 in Gabe Wood are your top two right now. Your first playoff competitor sits 6th position in practice, Rajah Caruth.
And the funny thing is, I was talking with a couple of the drivers you just referred to in Slate as well as Caruth. Those are competitors with minimal experience with this car in the first place. For Slate, he told me he ran this car once at Richmond, and now this would be his second time overall with the 1987 machines for NASCAR stock cars. For Rajah Caruth, it was more so racing in events at super speedways. So in turn, you can tell the raw talent is there for those competitors, and it's going to be interesting if they can keep it up long run pace in particular. But in terms of our drivers who may play spoilers, I'm keeping my eye on the driver who's 4th on the board in particular, Brad Perez, because he had so much bad luck at his home track, at a circuit that he had a very strong chance to win at. It just so happened that everything that could go wrong went wrong for Brad Perez. He told me he's looking for trophies, and he's not afraid to battle with the playoff drivers tonight. So don't be surprised to see Brad Perez immediately up at the front and trying to stay at the front in his machine.
Certainly is. Keep an eye on him. And of course, you have Garrett Smithley, who was a late addition to the playoffs in the beginning and then went on to win the first 2 races of the playoffs in round number 1. He currently sits 11th in the practice time. What do you think we could expect out of that number 51?
Well, I'm expecting some intriguing things because he has been talking from his perspective on his side of things, where his car has been getting snappy, it's been doing things like that, and it's been a bit of a battle for Smithy when it comes to battling around the racetrack itself. But overall, I think for Smithley, it might be a decent night as long as he stays clean and gets stronger as the night goes on. That's going to be the critical part. Those who are able to adapt to the changing conditions, be able to stay out of trouble and learn from their mistakes, I think are the ones that are going to succeed. And for Smithley, I'm curious if he's going to be able to learn as this night goes on. After all, he's just 11th on the practice charts.
He certainly is. Of course, a little further up, you'll find Adam Cabot, who I have to say briefly here momentarily is one of those surprise drivers. He's always been a strong competitor all season long, but since that ERL champion has made him bring him over to MNR, he has been consistent and successful this season, and definitely a championship contender when we go to Homestead later this season.
I absolutely agree. It's the matter of can he get himself into that position is going to be the important part. But I think, especially with what he showed in some of the main stock car races with the current date cars, he does a solid job here. He's in a very strong position, I think, for next week.
He certainly is. Final thoughts, Justin, before we get ready to see qualifying and kick off Monday Night Racing here at Michigan.
Well, the final thoughts, way simply, is this. These drivers are going to be weighed heavily when it comes to the challenges they're about to face for these competitors, because this is not an easy circuit to battle at, even with the amount of space, and it's not going to be an easy race to win. If you want to take the checkered flag, you need to be smart. Right from the drop of the green flag, you need to know how to play the lines. You need to find yourself into proper track position. In our words, if you play things up perfectly from strategy all the way down to where you are at a certain moment, you may find yourself in victory lane tonight.
We will certainly see who finds themselves in victory lane. Can it be a playoff contender or a playoff spoiler? We will find out as James Pike, Kenneth Bueno, and Devin Henry, along with Justin Prince, cruising down pit road, get ready for the round of 7 first race here at Michigan. We will be right back after these messages.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Maconi Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Maconi Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Maconi Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MaconiSetupShop.com and learn why Maconi Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Darlington Raceway, it's known as the Lady in Black, the track too tough to tame.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of race number 14 in Season 3 of Monday Night Racing and the first race of the round of 7 of the Monday Night Racing playoffs, the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic, live from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports here, alongside Kenneth Bueno and Devin Henry. Justin Prince down on pit road for us this evening with Ryan Bauer, as always, producing the shots and sounds that you see, and cameras provided to us by Dougie Beard. This is an intriguing setup. It seems like every time we come to Michigan, Kenneth, we have close finishes, exciting racing, wall-to-wall, door-to-door action, but it's a little bit different this time because it's not the super late model like it was last season. It's the 1987 Ford Thunderbird and Chevrolet Monte Carlo, and these cars drive a little bit differently than their super late model counterparts.
Well, differently, I think, is an understatement, James, between the SLM and the 1987 Cup cars. These cars are brutal. You have to manhandle these things if you even want to get it in the direction you want to go in. And that's going to be the magnificent part, James, about tonight's race, and especially the beginning of this round. When I think of the round of 7, James, especially with the competition in this series, I kind of think of the semifinals of the NCAA men's basketball tournament, the Final Four. It feels like a championship event, but you're not quite there. The momentum you have to carry is going to be paramount. And for these drivers, they have to bring their absolute A-plus game in order to even consider themselves a Championship 4 competitor when we go back to South Florida in a couple weeks.
And Devin, Kenneth makes a great point that we have now made it to the round of 7. We are going to lose 3 drivers at the end of next week, but the 4 that remain are going to go racing for a title at the end of August.
And that's everyone's goal, right? You just want that opportunity to make it to South Florida. But first of all, you have to get through what maybe last round was the wackiest, the strangest round of them all. Now you come to these much wider, much larger, much more lane utilization, 2 kinds of tracks where okay, I think we're going to see some of the drivers really come out of the mold, and you'll be able to see maybe some more of those well-known stock car drivers have success. But when you come to a track with the 1987 machines, it changes everything, because these cars are an acquired taste. It's not your average everyday stock car in the iRacing service. So I think we're going to see a few drivers come out and perform that maybe you weren't quite expecting when you first came to this race tonight.
These cars do not have the downforce of their real-life counterparts of today. They do not have the ability to just point and send and go. You have to drive off the right rear in order to be successful with these cars. As we take a look at Michigan International Speedway, courtesy of our friends at Google Earth, and see where we are in the world and learn a little bit more about this racetrack in the Irish Hills of Michigan, about an hour and a half east of downtown Detroit. And this place is big. It is fast. 18 degrees of banking in the corners, 12 degrees of banking on the front stretch, and 5 degrees of banking on the back stretch. But Kenneth Bueno, this place, you can't just zip around no matter what car it is.
Yeah, this track is fast. And you think about the round of 7, these two tracks, Michigan Auto Club, the sister venues. It is a very big situation here, because Michigan is all about bringing the speed, bringing the draft, bringing the momentum. That's what this track has been known about since day one, and since it was built back in 1968. And you could see it there with Jeff Gordon in 2014, 206 miles per hour. That is fast. That's a testament to just how tricky it is to keep your speed up at a track like this and keep it around the 2-mile venue, but to also do it in front of a lot of other cars as well.
Outside of Daytona and Talladega, this is arguably the fastest track in all of NASCAR. As we look at the point standings and we reset where we are in the season, Devin Henry talked about it a little bit earlier. You've got your 7 right there: Smithley, Cabot, Caruth, and Kennan, all of whom have wins in the regular season. That's why they start this round inside the cutoff. And TJ Cummings, David Shieldhouse, and Robbie Lyons, who have not won a race in season 3 of Monday Night Racing up to this point, start outside the cutoff line. So a little bit of work to do for that trio, Devin, but it's a relatively even playing field for the most part. Garrett Smithley's got a cushion there of 6 points, but 6 points in the grand scheme of things is not all that much.
Exactly, and this is not the current NASCAR point system where you have extra bonus points awarded actually in any sense of any points. It is a legitimate 6-point gap between first and last right now. That is 6 positions on the racetrack once the checker flag flies. Any of the 7 drivers have an opportunity tonight to not lock themselves into the playoffs, but you can certainly knock yourself out of the playoffs with a poor performance tonight.
And not too long in the calendar either. We're here, then we go to Auto Club with the Xfinity cars next week, and then we'll round it out at Homestead Miami Speedway to conclude season 3 of Monday Night Racing with the trucks. Tonight we're going for 80 laps, 160 miles, 256 kilometers. Drivers will have 1 foot repair in the pits if they need it. 3 green, white checker events available to these drivers. 3 sets of tires in the pits on a fixed setup, courtesy of Jeff Maconi and the folks at Maconi Setup Shop, with a 3/4 limit fuel tank. It's a little bit smaller fuel tank than you would normally run, but the big key, Kenneth Bueno, that 3 sets of tires. We know the 1987 cars eat up tires, and they will need fresh rubber at some point in this evening. Time to take a look at our Beef Jerky Unlimited Pole Award winner, which goes to East Bethany, New York's TJ Majors, who put that number 2 Ford Thunderbird on pole with a fast time of 41.117 seconds to take the top spot. So TJ will start on pole in tonight's Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic alongside James Bickford, who's enjoyed a nice resurgence of form the second half of season 3. Stephen Wilson has a victory in M&R before. He's there, as does Max Kennan. Garrett Smithley, your highest starting playoff driver, to the inside of TJ Cummings in row 3, Kenneth.
A pair of NASCAR drivers you'll find in row number 4, Anthony Alfredo. Will Rogers will line up, of course, all the way through PA. Joshua Slate, Adam Cabot to row number 5. This is a very interesting set of rows here because Cabot, Lyons, they're both in the contention for the championship. Cabot above in second, Robbie Lyons in the last spot, Devin.
Gary Sexton starting inside of row number 7. Michael Matsey on the outside of him in 14th. Matt Stolnick, it will be in the 8th row alongside Anders Krohn. Behind them, Ford Martin and Brad Perez making up row number 9.
Lots of speed back here. Another playoff driver to boot. Steve Affon, Justin Melillo there, but the big name to watch, David Shieldhouse, one of the 7 remaining for the title. He'll start mid-pack this night on the outside of row 11. He'll roll off from 22nd.
And then all the way back through there, you'll find Brett Baldeck, Seth Egger back to P24. Case Kallenbach is the last driver here to set a time. Playoff driver Raja Karuth will have a lot of work to do back in road turn 13. But defending race winner at Homestead, Gabe Wood, lining up with Nick Sanchez to his outside. Stephen Ellis, Garrett Miller, Drew Walker, and Paul Sutton will be the final drivers in this field tonight.
We are at virtual Michigan International Speedway, where the weather is relatively balmy. 69 degrees Fahrenheit air temp in sim. Track temp is 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind is headed 2 miles an hour to the north, and humidity pretty much nothing, 0%. The current time is 4:30 p.m. local time on October 17th, 2021. So weather a little bit colder than you would expect for this time of Monday Night Racing, and colder than the default day for iRacing as well. This is a Sunday on the calendar that we are racing on virtually in sim. So just so you have a frame of reference, it's mid-October in Michigan. Surprised that the leaves haven't changed colors around us, but we'll make do with the greenery and hopefully enjoy a great night of racing. For late-breaking stories on pit road, before we go green flag racing, let's turn it down for the first time to our pit reporter, Justin Prince.
Thank you very much, James. These drivers tonight had some nerves about tonight's action in regards to the confidence levels and about battling with this race car. Take, for example, the driver you see, David Schildhaus. He had a lot of expectations for this race tonight after losing several tenths compared to his practice runs. He's someone that is looking to try and guarantee himself a spot into the Final Four with a victory tonight, but he's one driver who knows he's got a tough task ahead of him, but does have some experience in this car, keep in mind.
A very important point there for any one of the 7 playoff drivers. You win this race, you are guaranteed to be racing for the Season 3 Monday Night Racing Championship in 2 weeks' time. A big prize on the line for the top 7 drivers in points, but for now it's TJ Majors who will get us underway. Thank you so much for tuning into Podium Esports as the green flag unfurls, and we are racing in the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic. Some separation as they come across the line to complete our first lap of competition, but already a battle for the race lead. Kenneth Bueno, Stephen Wilson to the inside of TJ Majors, and look at Garrett Smithley just hanging out back at these two. Maybe he'll look down on the inside down the backstretch.
It was the exit of turn 4, James, that blew the door wide open for the 25 of Wilson and Garrett Smithley to make way, but not before a caution comes out early in the running. So already a couple of drivers in trouble. I believe one of them is Ford Martin. He's got significant damage to his car. Same deal right there. I believe that's Matt Stallneck in the 41. Take a look at the replay here. This is coming out of turn 2, and everybody's just trying to get what they can attached to the 41. Not exactly ideal, and the Crypto Autosport teammates collect together.
Big move there. How about Brett Baldeck going to the outside of Matt Stallneck there, Evan? Might get a chance to see what happened from Ford Martin's purview, but just nowhere for Ford to go. Stallneck loses it, gets sideways right in front of him, but that's something I think we're going to see a lot tonight. You drive so much off the right rear that throttle application, especially on corner exit, is very, very finite in these cars. You have to be very precise with how much gas you apply when you get back on the gas, because if you push it a little bit too hard too early, more often than not, you are guaranteed to be going around.
And Brett Baldeck barely gets around that incident right there in the WJZY 46 machine. And that is one thing about this car. First of all, it doesn't have much grip to begin with. And then just like our buddy Jeff Maconi said in our Twitch chat, even when they're updated, now it's even harder to maintain grip. And in these early laps, that right rear is really going to want to rip around. But then once you start moving through the race, James, you're going to start pushing in the center of the corner because that right rear goes away and the front of the car is tight, the rear of the car is loose, and then that's the balance that you have to maintain if you do go on a very long green flag run. And man, I tell you what, it is quite the roller coaster when you hit a track like this with the 1987 machines.
It's interesting how you almost have to drive these cars like boats in that you've got more power and more control over where the car goes out of the rear of the machine than you really do the front. The fronts are just sort of passengers, and the whole front of the car is much more predicated by the rear of the race car than you would think, especially when it comes to that throttle control that we talked about earlier. Now, you saw just a few moments ago that we had a little bit of a nugget for you down at the bottom of your screen. That's because these 1987 cars, we've been running at Podium over the course of the past few weeks. The Retro 500 is coming your way using these very same 1987 Ford Thunderbirds and Chevrolet Monte Carlos on Monday, September 6th. 2 more qualifying races left for you, both on Wednesday nights, and you can sign up at podiumesports.com/Retro 500 to get in on the fun. We'll take the top 10 from each qualifier race that have not already locked themselves in to give us a 41-car starting grid for a 367-lap, 500-mile race with these cars at the Track 2 Tuck Time, and all the qualifying races and the feature broadcasted live on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. So lots of fun. Our next qualifier will be this Wednesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, a special West Coast time. Folks who have the opportunity to run a little bit later and maybe need the opportunity to run a little bit later. If that 9 o'clock start time that we've been running has been a little bit too early for you, here's your week to get in on the action. Bring in Raja Karuth here, race winner earlier this season in MNR as the lights come off the pace cars. Our Bryant Shack Technology and race reporter. And Raj, not much that you could figure out, I think, over that first handful of laps, but do you have a sense of what to expect over the course of this evening?
That's a good question, James. I don't know what to expect. I thought we would be packed up a little bit more, but judging by the off-throttle time, I think we'll be spread out a little bit. So that was, like I told Justin earlier, that was something I was positively looking forward to. So we're just going to run our race here and get some solid points, hopefully, and get a good advance to Homestead in 2 weeks.
Do you feel any extra pressure being one of the 7 now that you made it this deep into the playoffs?
I mean, not really. The biggest, I think, pressure that I put on myself was from that last round, specifically with the Porsches at Homestead, just because I'm not really the best road racer at all. That was something that I need to work on if I want to continue to progress through the ranks of the real life stuff. But now, since we're through that round, I'm not really worried about it. So I'm ready just to go and compete for the wins and go win a championship come Homestead.
Thanks for the time, Roger. We'll watch and see how that number 13 machine does as we go back to green flag racing in just a few moments. Coming to lap 6 of 80, TJ Majors still your leader in your control car with Stephen Wilson to his outside as they wait, and Majors takes off, and we're back green flag racing in Michigan. Kenneth?
Going to be interesting to see how Majors does on the initial lap, because we saw in the initial start he kind of swung high out of turn 4. That's exactly what gave way to Stefan Wilson and Garrett Smithley to kind of make their own tandem and go for the front of this field. You can already see 3 wide where Stefan Wilson lays as everybody's going to carve through. James Bickford, look at Adam Cabot move his way into 3rd as they come down to the back straightaway.
Watching to see whether or not we're hearing anything from race control. There was a lane change from Stephen Wilson as one car goes spinning just off to the back of the screen. So Wilson may be in trouble here as you see the stricken 37 of Paul Sutton out of Maple Glen, Pennsylvania. He's in trouble as TJ Majors still leads this race. It's Majors, then Smithley, then Cabot, then Wilson, who's 4th for the moment, but may be in trouble. Devin Henry off that lane change before the restart.
Everyone's single filing out. Adam Cabot going to try to dive down a little bit more here, gain to the inside of Garrett Smithley, fighting for P2. And when you think of the draft here at a track like Michigan, modern day racing, yeah, there's a lot of draft. In this, there's not quite as much drafting. You're going to need a little bit more corner exit speed based on off throttle time to really get that momentum down the straightaway. But while you're packed up like this, got to use the air to your advantage.
First look at the live points to the right side of your screen. Garrett Smithley extending his gap over the bottom of the cutoff as you get a good onboard look from David Schildhaus as there's trouble at the front of the field. The yellow flag is out, and TJ Majors is barrel rolling down the front straightaway.
And this is the problem that we saw on the opening lap. He just got a little bit high. And like we were talking about to open the show, these cars and this setup specifically are so hung on the right rear that you really have to be careful about what you do on corner exit. And look at that avoidance there. Adam Cabot, he almost had a meeting with the pit road barrows as you look just right there, exiting the seam, car steps out. Majors has nowhere to go. He gets sent for the grass. The grass absolutely clips him, and then it's pretty much history from there. Cabot really had to avoid it by going straight for the pit road entrance and the pit lane. To take another look at it, it's exactly what happened on the first lap. Just emphasize a little bit as you walk on board with the 17 and Cabot.
I don't think there's anything he could have done. You look out of the windshield and you see Majors just sort of slide up the track, and then all of a sudden he came across the nose of Cabot's car. Maybe a little bit better look here, but yeah, nothing I think you can do if you're Cabot, Devin Henry, and I think the 17 will be thankful that he didn't pick up more damage than he did in that incident. You imagine Majors is probably already going to have to use his fast repair, but Cabot I think could ride if he needed to.
I mean, you'd rather be lucky than good, and I don't know if that constitute as lucky, but the fact that he's able to keep that car pretty straight, take evasive action down pit road, first of all, it did take skill to keep that machine straight, but the ability for him to not slam into those barriers and not do a kick flip himself, I think that could have went worse for Cabot. So right now you're just being happy about that.
I think he'll be okay and could ride around with that damage. Might elect to hold that fast repair for a little bit. But for now, we're going to take a quick commercial break and then be back with more action from the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic for Monday Night Racing here on Podium Esports.
Darlington Raceway, it's known as the Lady in Black, the track too tough to tame.
Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the Michigan Classic for Monday Night Racing. James Pike, Kenneth Bueno, Devin Henry, and Justin Prince down on pit road with Ryan Bauer producing all your shots. Cameras provided to us by Dougie Beard this evening. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by our partners at Maconi Setup Shop, your home for iRacing setups and the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports. Legends to Cup cars, they have you covered with dirt setups available for late models, modifieds, and wing sprint cars as well. At Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups but your victories. And the newest book, How I Drive, featuring a foreword by NASCAR Cup Series driver Anthony Alfredo, is now available. Come learn from the pros how to be the best driver you can be. And for more information, you can visit their website at MaconiSetupShop.com. We are going to get the green flag this time by, and it will be James Bickford in control. Actually, rather Garrett Smithley. Take that back. Smithley in control of this field as Paul Sutton gets the wave around there to the outside. You see on the RoboCam coming off of turn number 2. So as Paul decides to loop around, it will be Smithley to the inside, Bickford to the outside. And I think if there's any theme we found, at least initially, Devin Henry, it's that these drivers are struggling to figure out where that threshold is, at least in terms of how much you try and gas up off the right rear on quarter exit.
Yeah, you really have to have that egg under the throttle, take care of the car when you're trying to re-accelerate on exit, and once you get a little bit of laps on these tires, you're going to feel like you need to push it harder on exit, and if we do get a long green flag run, the edge becomes even thinner.
Also, note Stephen Wilson was penalized by race control for his lane change before the start-finish line on that last restart. He is now scored all the way back in 25th as we go green flag racing once again from Michigan. It's Smithley on the gas pedal, Bickford to try and give chase.
We'll see if third time is the charm, James, on this restart. A very good jump by Garrett Smithley. Not sure if we've seen that before, but you can see Bickford just pretty much carrying everybody else with him. And you can see Ryan Vargas in the mix as well. Anthony Alfredo, he's trying to duck underneath James Bickford as they come off turn 2. Couple of them 3 wide, but it is still Smithley at the head of this field.
Look at Brad Perez there sliding back. He got loose on corner exit, and all of a sudden you've got DJ Cummings to his inside to try and get a spot as Cummings tries to chase it. Quite the message there off the 21 of Max Kennan there, the deck lid. Sam Ard should be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Of course, the Thomas Brothers Country Ham Machine. The colors on Kennan's number 21 at this evening, and you see a good look at it right there. But given what Sam Ard's done for the sport, decent case to be made, Devin.
Yeah, I'd say that Mad Max is a point here, and then to go along with that, right now 5 points above the cut line. I think you look at all 7 drivers rather left in this playoffs. Mad Max, he's the underdog here, and he's got to perform here at Michigan, get himself a good buffer going into next week. I think that he can be a guy to perform well tonight and get himself into that championship 4.
I think what's intriguing with Kennan's case, Kenneth, is that his victory in M&R last year when we took the street stocks to Rockingham came at about the same point in Season 2 that we're at now in Season 3. And Kennan has experience with being successful late in an M&R season. So maybe not a huge shocker then that we're seeing Kenneth near the front, or rather Kennan near the front as Brad Perez gets the fence there on the high line and gets out of the throttle to save it, but he'll lose track position as 3-4 cars go underneath him.
Well, James, I would hope I would even be good enough to be in this league to begin with. But Kennan, no, for real, he's been with his back against the wall, and I think he likes it that way. There's some people that like to have the pressure on them, and that's when they perform a little bit better. And for Kennan, we've seen him in high-pressure situations before, and he's been able to work himself through. He's been able to get himself out of it. So Kennan, with the performance tonight, if he can get it done, this will be a monumental statement to the rest of this field to let him know, of course, I'm here for a reason. He's got a lot of drivers to fight through. You saw Rajah Caruth right there, almost about making 3 wide. That playoff competitor is right underneath Ryan Vargas, and he's cutting his way through the field after not taking the time in qualifying.
Other thing that makes this race so interesting, and part of the way you have to race these 1987s here at Devin Henry, look at how far these drivers are off the inside line of the corners. They're at least a groove up, in some cases 2 lanes up, just trying to make sure that they save the rubber on their tires, because that's how much these things chew the Goodyear Eagles up.
And even beyond that, when you go down to the inside, you're almost scrubbing speed in these 1987 machines. Ryan Vargas now looking to go 3 wide for that second position. Alfredo stuck in the middle. Bickford on the outside here. Bickford's going to be able to hold him off a little bit, but we just got a report from Justin Prince that Brad Perez said, hey, it just got tight. I didn't think it'd come this fast, but in the center of the corners, these cars do get extremely tight. That will make a big issue with the off-throttle time, and now you're going to see guys really blast off down the back straightaway. It's not necessarily because they're fast, but it's because they set up for the corner better than everyone else and are able to get back to the throttle quicker. It's coming to get into Caruth a smidge.
Oh, that was really, really close. But again, off throttle, it's the same exact term that Rajah Caruth used. It's the term that Devin Henry just used. He's got experience racing these 1987s, and it's a term that you're going to hear a lot tonight. How much you wait to get on the throttle can make the difference between a 10th, 2 tenths, maybe 3 tenths in the lap times as you see cars sliding up the racetrack. And here comes Anthony Alfredo looking to the inside of James Bickford, and Rajah Caruth trying to split the middle, but he'll tuck in behind the 29 machine and go bumper to bumper to motor down the back straightaway and get around to Alfredo on the outside.
And what you said there exactly was about pushing off the corner and the off-throttle time being so significant to where you can gain the momentum here at a track like Michigan. You also have to worry about where you position the car, because if you get on throttle a little bit too early, that car is just going to rocket right up to the outside wall, and you do not want to take yourself out. You don't want to give yourself damage, or you don't want to give anybody else damage and get anybody collected in a mess as well, especially with the high stakes in the playoffs. So you also have to reckon where you are in terms of track position. You get right on board right here using that initial seam just off the white line, that initial groove all the way at the inside of the racetrack. It's where a lot of these guys have been, especially as of late, and they continue to be deadlocked as Smithley has yet to be caught by anybody else.
Smithley's got a good gap. Meanwhile, David Schildhouse went around last time by on the back straightaway. Justin Prince, you have more on what happened to the 20 car.
In his situation, ended up hearing potentially getting involved with a bit of contact down the straightaway all the way back to 30th position, but no caution flag as a result of said incident. I will say, with that scenario, he does still have a smile on his face and is having a blast despite being, well, half the track rather, behind the rest of the pack.
It's not a pretty picture that the points paint right now with that situation as there's contact down the back straightaway, but there are likely yellow flags to come. There are opportunities to catch back up to the field, so Schildhouse will have his work cut out for him, but it's not impossible to charge through the field. Raja Karut sliding wide and high on the outside as he tried to get to the gas too early, but he came all the way from 26 to run as high as second before that last lap as James Bickford now to the inside of the 38 machine, but trouble behind them, and the yellow flag out for the third time this evening in the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic.
Looks like a problem here for Stephen Ellis, the Canadian who won back at Talladega. Running a cast car, the Canadians able to run a little throwback here with Stephen Ellis. Take a look at what happened here. Almost making contact below them. That's Drew Welker and I believe Anders Krohn. And Welker's sliding up the track a little bit. Man, that's just barely enough contact to bring around Stephen Ellis. A couple other drivers get involved in this one.
And I don't necessarily think that was intentional, but at the same time, Kenneth, it's really hard to judge how much room you have and where the other cars are in relation to yours because this track is so wide. And I think Welker just tried to climb up the racetrack as we go on board with Mike Clay of ESPN's NFL reporting team. The seats parted nicely for Clay, but I think Welker was just trying to gather it up and get back up the racetrack and find that preferred line on the outside coming down the front straightaway. But he had absolutely no idea that he had company up top in the form of Stephen Ellis.
Yeah, and again, back to the positioning. If you can put your car in the right place, you need to also acknowledge where everybody else is. And even when the car upsets itself and you try to catch it, that's going to result in a movement in the track, whether it's chasing it down to the yellow line or chasing it up. So that's exactly what happened. And unfortunately, Welker, who was at that point leading a second group that was formed in the draft, he's now got damage. He's going to have to get it fixed as everybody is taking their first stop down pit road. We'll see if the tires become a factor here.
Let's go to Justin Prince for more as the field comes down for the first time this evening for service.
And several drivers scattering their way into the pit boxes, multiple overrunning their pit stalls. Raja Karuf among those competitors who've lost several seconds as a result of mistakes. TJ Majors also overran his pit box. Majority of the competitors off and away off the jacks, but some mixed strategy for a couple competitors. 11, 12-second stops for the first few drivers off the pit lane. Others like to take 2 tires or just fuel to be able to keep track position.
And that suggests to me pretty immediately that we had some drivers take 2 tires and most of the field took 4, but some are going to try and gamble with it just a shade. We'll be curious to see how that plays out when we go green flag racing in just a little bit, as we remind you all that tonight's broadcast of this Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic for Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Tufco Flooring, an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. They listen to your needs and requirements and develop custom solutions for every client. And for more information, you can visit their website at tufcoflooring.com. You see the pit stop times here on the pylon and see who did what exactly. And you can look off those times, Devin, and see pretty clearly who did what. Anybody who had a pit stop in the ballpark of 8-9 seconds, fuel only. If it was 11 or 12 seconds, it was 2 tires. Anybody in the low 20s took 4 tires. And off that, we can deduce that the top 3 drivers, Brad Perez, Gary Sexton, and Matt Stolnick, took 2 tires. TJ Majors and Michael Massey took fuel only. Everybody else on fresh rubber. So we have some strategy that we'll get to see play out before our eyes when we go back green flag racing.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because you need tires, and it would be nice to have a fresh set in your back pocket if we even get a green-white checkered. 3 laps fresher tires is actually kind of a big deal. So I'm surprised that some guys took 4 tires this early in the race. You only get 3 sets. So, boy, I'm really concerned about the tires that everyone's going to have. But another thing that's early is having fast repairs left over, Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. David Schildhouse saying on his perspective that he has indeed used his fast repair and reassuring that he will be okay and everything will be fine with 60 laps to work with. He is keeping very calm. He's just glad there wasn't any significant major damage from that situation for David Schildhouse.
And worth noting there that Schillenhouse still has his fast repair available. The only drivers in this field that I can tell who have used their fast repairs are Stephen Ellis and TJ Majors after his barrel roll down the front straightaway. So most everybody's still with their fast repairs as the green flag will come out on lap 22. Brad Perez, your control car, your first 3 cars in this field. Him, Sexton, Solnick on the 2 tires. Everybody else either with fuel only or on 4 as they fan out a little bit further back in the field as they race towards turn 1, Kenneth.
That was almost about 4 wide, where you see Ryan Vargas just absolutely ripping the inside. We'll see how much though the tires make a big difference. 4 versus 2. How big of a gamble is this for guys like Perez and Sexton? Is they're already 3 wide. You can see Garrett Smithley. He's already making his way. James Bickford, he's going to follow suit as they come back to the inside for 3 and 4.
Everybody sliding. Smithley there now not in the lead of this race. Dirty air on the nose of his machine, struggling for grip, working his way up towards the top of the racetrack, towards TJ Majors, but everybody's still 2 by 2 as they come down the front stretch as Brad Perez is taking advantage of the clean air and stretches his lead out on everybody, and it is a mad scramble from about 3rd on back going into 1.
Yeah, this pack is becoming quite the assortment of beehives. Garrett Smithley gets turned around in front of the field, collects Alfredo, and we got a mess down the back straightaway.
Big incident in turn number 2 featuring a lot of the major players early on in this race to bring out the 4th and unquestionably most significant yellow of this Maconi setup shot Michigan Classic so far. There were a bunch of drivers that got involved, but looks like there may have been, couldn't tell if there was contact between Bickford and Smithley, but looks like there was a little bit of a shot and then enough to push to finish it as Bickford and Smithley come together, and then a whole host of drivers get involved. Anthony Alfredo had nowhere to go. Rasha Caruth was swept up in this. Looks like there was some damage for the 65 of Will Rogers, the defending champion of MNR. He was involved in this. Matt Stolnick was involved, and DJ Cummings just managed to get through all of that, Kenneth Cueto. But major players, championship drivers involved in this, and playoff drivers involved in this as well. And Rasha Caruth will almost certainly have to burn his fast repair here, as will Garrett Smithley.
If you're a playoff driver in this point, you do not want to see this happen. And Smithley, he was just trying to gain the momentum to get ahead of Perez and Sexton, who had the 2 tires on the last stop. Gets that little push by Bickford, and that's all she wrote. And then at that point, if you're on the outside, you just have to hope and pray that nobody gets in you. You can see Joshua Slay and pretty much everybody just scrambling for the apron, trying to find all the type of space. But that is a very big shot for many of the championship drivers who will, in turn, have to use the fast repair early and can't bank on it for the rest of the event.
And will have to be safe and play it carefully throughout the rest of this event. You end up out of fast repairs, and that could really put a dent in your chances to make the championship 4. Meanwhile, Justin Prince, hearing that there may be some words between Smithley and Bickford after they got into it.
To put it simply, the first reaction from Smithley after the incident over the radio was, really appreciate it, dude. And you can tell with the emotions as well, with the candidates as well, he was not happy. He apparently was hit once before as well. Before that incident, he said over the radio, was not happy on that side of things. Bickford did apologize over the radio from his perspective in that situation. Others, such as Roger Caruth, had little emotion to that other than get the fast repair ready.
And we did see those 2 touches there from Bickford on Smithley. There were 2 taps, first and then second, and it was the second one that sent the 51 around. But how that changes the game significantly. We'll go to break here under yellow flag in the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic on Monday Night Racing. Podium Esports with more from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway in just a few moments.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple to light, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at biggreenegg.com. That's biggreenegg.com.
We are an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. We don't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach to flooring, and neither should you. When you choose Tufco, we consult with you about your needs, industry requirements, and factor in numerous variables. After assessing your facility, we engineer your floor and drains, then install everything ourselves. That's the Tufco way.
Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
Darlington Raceway, it's known as the Lady in Black, the track too tough to tame.
Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic for Monday Night Racing. James Plankin and Bueno, Devin Henry here in the booth. Justin Prince down on pit road. Ryan Bauer, our producer. Cameras from Dougie Beard this evening. Getting set to restart this race on lap 27 after a major incident that collected playoff drivers Garrett Smithley and Raja Caruth. We can also tell you off that last restart that DJ Cummings received an end-of-line penalty for changing lanes before the start-finish line on that restart, just as Stefan Wilson did earlier in this race. But also worth noting that Alfredo, Stolnick, Welker, and Caruth and Smithley, along with Stephen Ellis and TJ Majors, have already used their faster pair. So we're starting to see the drivers with the margins of error gone rack up as Brad Perez leads us off into the first quarter, and we're back green flag racing at Michigan.
It was a good job, mind you, James, for Brad Perez holding on two tires. Also, Gary Sexton. Those two are kind of the only ones left in a way that took two tires, and they've been able to survive kind of the chaos that's been happening the past couple of times around. You see everybody squirming as the 46 gets hit. Almost David Shithouse involved. And again, we see a yellow flag induced on the track already. Brett Baldeck gets damaged. I believe Anders Krohn got a bit of it as well. And many more drivers involved after many had been taken out, including Smithley, the playoff driver who just took his fast pair. He's in it once more.
This was a big incident. We'll try and take a look at the replay and see where this started. I saw Stefan Wilson as the first car that went around, and indeed, you can see some contact there. Actually, no, there were two simultaneous incidents there. Stephen Ellis just ahead of the track with Brett Baldeck, and then Stefan Wilson making contact with Case Kallenbach. And those two separate incidents set this off, and a lot of drivers getting involved in this one. Garrett Smithley picked up some damage. Raja Caruth with a masterful drive to the inside to get away from all of that as Smithley goes spinning down to the inside of the racetrack. Not a lot of damage for Smithley, but again, he has already used his faster pair. So anything that he's got now, he's going to have to get fixed on pit road. And he flat spotted the tires there in that incident, which is going to almost certainly mean he's going to be down on grip unless he comes in to get fresh tires, Devin.
You know what this race needs, guys? Turtles. Turtles and curves. That's all we're missing so far. Man, DJ has been cutting it close all day today. I don't know how that e-NASCAR machine is that clean.
He does a nice job avoiding everything else, I guess.
Ooh.
Yeah, I realize how bad that is as soon as I said it, but it was also the low-hanging fruit. So our social media guy just chimed in. Eric Messer doing a great job covering everything on Twitter and Facebook for us, but even he told us to stop after I said it. So I'll stay away from the memes and remind you all that tonight's coverage of this Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic is brought to you by our friends at Big Green Egg, the world's largest producer and international distributor of the highest quality ceramic Commodore-style charcoal grills. They spent over 40 years mastering the best, most versatile, fuel-efficient, and easy-to-use Commodore-style grills across the globe. With an Egg, there's no need for a separate grill, smoker, pizza oven, or rotisserie device because the Egg does all of this and more to perfection. For more information, you can visit their website at biggreenegg.com. Let's get in Raja Caruth, who has been through a few more adventures since we spoke to him last. So over the last just 10, 15 laps, Raj, take us through what you've seen and what you've been through.
Well, it is for the last few laps, James. Got all the way up to second from starting in 26th, then got almost wrecked into turn 3, and then I guess James wrecked Garrett, and then we all got involved in it off of turn 2. Had to use my fast repair, and then that just happened on the backstretch. So gonna have to play it a little bit safe here, but honestly just race it like a normal race where you usually don't have a fast repair anyway. And it's weird, it's so much has happened, it's not even halfway. So I'm excited to get back to the front.
You touched on it a little bit in your answer. I want to get a little bit more on it. How does the way you race this event change now that you are down and out of fast repairs?
I mean, it changes a little bit. I can't, be on 110% like I tend to be on here. I gotta turn it down a little bit. But overall, I think I'll just drive it like normal. I mean, in real life, we don't have fast repairs, so I feel like if I treat it like that, we'll be okay.
Also, you are currently plus 5 points on the cutoff line, so you're in. But do you take that knowledge? Does that change anything either? Is it still same old, just off what you just said?
Just same old. I mean, points will fluctuate so much throughout the point of the race, so the priority is going to be making it to the end of the race cleanly. And if we do that and keep whatever fenders we've got left on it, it should be all right, and either have a good points buffer or be advanced into Homestead after the next 50 laps.
We'll see how Rasha Caruth gets on. Many thanks to the driver of the number 13 events, TC Chevrolet Monte Carlo, for his time, and we'll keep an eye on that black and red and silver machine that looks a little intimidatory if I didn't think of it, as Caruth will restart deep in this field. He will get going for the 15th position. It's Brad Perez who will continue to be the control car as we go back. Green flag racing from Michigan. Perez will wait for his moment to get on the gas pedal, slow it down, and get everybody bunched off, and then take off. And we're back. Green flag racing in Michigan once again.
And as Brad Perez goes up the gears, same deal for Gary Sexton. Watch Ryan Vargas. Past couple of restarts, he's been very aggressive, eager to make all of these positions, and even going into turn 1, he's got the best of Gary Sexton. He's going to be all the way to P2. It's just about the moves that he can make back to 3 and 4 in the back straightaway. Look at Adam Cabot slice through the field as well as they go back to the back straightaway. Mostly everyone single file. No trouble to see here.
A few new faces coming towards the front now that we're midway through this race, and playoff drivers abound. Cabot is one of the 7, the ERL champ, trying to back up his title from Anthony Alfredo's league with a title in Season 3 of Monday Night Racing, as Ryan Vargas now works his way towards the rear bumper of his good friend Brad Perez to try and set up a battle for the race lead.
And when you look at Robbie Lyons and what he's been able to do this year, he almost got that win, the season opener in the Xfinity Series cars at Daytona. Since then, he's been quiet, and then he realized, oh, he's second in points right now. He's just been consistent, race in, race out, and that's what in the win and you're in era often goes overlooked. Just pure and utter consistency this season.
And Robbie Lyons, remember, was the last driver in this round of 7. He was the last one to make the cutoff in the round of 10. So what a turnaround story that would be if he could jump straight from the bottom of the round of 10 to into the hunt for a spot in the championship for all-in-one race. That's playoff racing for you, as it is now 3 cars at the front, as Vargas looks to the inside and will try his first crack at getting around Perez for the race lead, as Cabot will hang tight and try and roll the momentum on the outside.
You saw a wobble by Ryan Vargas in the middle of 1 and 2. That's what allowed Cabot to gain this momentum. He's going to tuck in the door, but there's a crash behind them. In the one machine of Joshua Slade, he got spun around in the back straightaway, but he's underneath the racing line, so no yellow flag on the track. He's going to do with some damage and at least all of the track position lost for the moment, as Vargas continues to be tailed by the 17 of Cabot. Top 3 breaking away from the field at lap 33.
Josh Slate down there on the apron. Brad Perez still in control of this, but for how much longer? As Vargas will tuck in behind Perez's Ford Thunderbird and get the momentum. They'll look to the high line going into 1 and 2. See if he can roll it all the way up there and carry all that momentum out of the corner with a ton of speed. They'll let Cabot get to his inside, but Vargas will have that run down the back straightaway. The question, Devin Henry, is whether or not it'll be enough to do anything entering 3.
And we're to the point in the run where drafting doesn't really help a ton. You still have that nice thick air, this 2-mile track, but getting back on the throttle at a good point, which all starts with your braking zone on corner entry, becomes so vital, and gain that run off the corner. Even here, Vargas had the outside lane and the momentum. Cabot still reeling in Vargas and Perez. And I tell you what, Cabot has some good experience in these 87 cars. I thought he had a chance to make that Firecracker 400 back earlier this summer. So he's pretty speedy in these 87 machines. And now I think he's already got his sight set on Brad Perez. He's not even going to worry about Vargas at this point.
I think the best thing for Perez here, especially given that he's on 2 tires, is that Cabot and Vargas continue to fight, and neither one of them can really use all of the racetrack to their advantage. He can pin one up high and then pin one down low, depending on where they're racing on the track, and it means that nobody's able to draw even with Brad Perez and change the way that the 30 car has to run his race. So this was a big call from Brad Perez to stay out and go with the 2 tires. He didn't take as much rubber as everybody else did when they all came down pit road some 15 laps ago, but it has, at least up to this point, paid off as Perez got a little bit sideways in 1 and 2, but he's still the race leader for the moment, Kenneth.
And it's big. The clean air is just taking that advantage that Brad Perez has and just extending it. You see the bump by Ryan Vargas. He's going to try and give him that nudge and just at least for the moment get away from Adam Cabot. The interesting thing here, though, James, is the fact that the top 3, only one of them are championship competitors. Perez got eliminated last week at Homestead of Miami Speedway where he wanted to win that race, so he's just running on his own. Same deal for Vargas. He's not running for an M&R title, so he can just hang in here, take all the risks, and pretty much have nothing to lose as he's taking group with Adam Cabot to the outside. And for now, Cabot is your race leader, not without a fight from the 2 tires on Brad Perez's machine.
Was about to say that the one driver in this trio that is fighting for the title is the one who's trying to go for the race lead, as Vargas will go down to the inside and make it 3 wide entering turn 3 as the tires continue to fade on Perez's machine, and they'll be 3 wide for the race lead in the middle of the quarter.
Boy, Perez really pushing up the track, and that will make way for Ryan Vargas, new leader of the number 6 machine. And look out, his team member Gabe Wood entered the conversation.
How about Gabe Wood, who got the victory last week in the Porsche 911 RSRs at Homestead, Miami? These 3 battling have made it a 4-car battle, and you got Gary Sexton in the 13 machine. Haven't talked much about him all night, but the Reaper Speed Lab Chevy Monte Carlo is just on the edge of this fray. It could be a 5-car fight for the race lead in short notice.
And what you're seeing right now is exactly what's notable about this Michigan International Speedway is that drivers can separate, but you'll get the accordion right back to ground zero. You'll have everybody coming back into the group, getting into the draft, willing to take any position, because now that brings Sexton, that brings TJ Majors, and playoff driver Roger Caruth at the tail end of this group. And maybe even in short notice, we could have everybody behind them start to get ground. You're right on board with the 13 of Roger Caruth as he's got a nice front view of the side-by-side battle up front. This is exactly making way for all of these guys who either made some risky calls or made the 2-tire call along with Brad Perez to finally get their shine in the moment as they're side-by-side, Wood to the inside of Cabot.
And worth noting, once again, the 2 playoff drivers in this group. You've got Cabot there just on the left side of your screen, that black and neon 17 Chevy Monte Carlo. That's Adam Cabot, the Magic Man out of Glen Gardner, New Jersey. And then Roger Caruth on the right side there, that red and black number 13 just on the edge. Those 2 are your playoff drivers in this bunch. They are both north of the cutoff line as it stands, so a decent amount to lose if it goes sideways for them, but they're racing for the lead. And even though Raja told us a few laps ago before we restarted that he wasn't going to run it at 110% like he normally does, I don't know if you know it at this point, because here he is, he's right there for the race lead, and shoot, if he wants to, he can come out of this corner and make it 4 wide and add some spice to the 3 wide battle just ahead of him.
Yeah, this is quite the brick wall in front of him. Has a very interesting spanky sandwich as he will slide Gabe Wood up to the 2nd position. Oh, he gets into Cabot and straight up into the wall. Massively unfortunate for the 13 machine.
What a huge moment in these playoffs for Raja Caruth, who gets into it with Adam Cabot and pounds the wall in 3 and 4 to bring out the yellow flag. That is almost certainly race over for Raja Caruth, and he will almost certainly have to fight for his spot in the round of 7. He may have to go out next week and win the Xfinity's at Auto Club in order to have a shot at this. That was a hard hit over in turn 3.
And it was there, the miscommunication. I think Cabot was just trying to make sure that Roger was clear, but they made contact, they met bumpers, and immediately you can see the aftermath. The playoff driver out of Washington, D.C., might have just had his hopes dashed without a miracle at Auto Club. You take a look at the replay, and that reminds me of Ryan Luza, Bobby Zelensky in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series at Homestead. The entrance to turn 3, thinking one of them is clear. They make contact, and one of them suffers the massive consequences and goes right up into the outside wall. So unfortunate for Carruth, who was on his way up to the field.
Justin Prince, you have more on what transpired between the 17 and the 13.
And already apologies coming in from a couple different drivers, both Cabot and Perez, for that situation. He's also already looking at the tape. He said he's not surprised, essentially, in the situation, as he's already analyzing it to where he feels like, should we have needed to do this, is what he's trying to break it down. He's not even mad in this circumstance, I will say.
Trouble here on pit road. Look at that. Garrett Smithley, I think, backed it in. He was sideways or backwards there, JP.
And these drivers continue to have more trouble when it comes to this pit entry. It's been very tight when it comes to these circumstances. You can see right here just how difficult it is. Smithley is not happy with that situation, to say the very least, right now. A big sigh from Garrett Smithley.
Garrett Smithley. Oh, that was big contact. Stephen Wilson just pounded the rear end of Smithley's number 51. Big contact there and big damage at the rear end, as Wilson might have gotten something at the front end too. But it's Will Rogers and Michael Massey who have stayed out. And those two are your first two cars at the moment, as we now are joined by Raja Carruth here in the booth. And Raja, just tell us what happened and what you saw, what you felt from your perspective.
So, I guess what had happened there is, I guess we'll break it down. Basically, I seen Brad drove in pretty hard in the one there. They're 3 wide. Thought about going 4 for a second, but I figured it'd be best to kind of hold what I had. But I ended up pushing Gabe through the middle and thought to myself, do I really need to, fill that middle right now? But that's the decision I made at that moment. Like, it was just at halfway, so I figured that was the time to try to get track position. And I noticed Brad drove it in really hard and shallow, so I checked up a little bit because I knew he was going to slide up, because Alfredo did the same thing to me earlier and about wrecked me, and I guess Adam didn't expect it or just tried to cross over me over or what, but he just hooked me in the right rear. Simple as that.
Raj, I hate seeing that, man, because you were putting on a show, slicing and dicing through the field, and James alluded to it, but this is a direct throwback to Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s Good Run Service Chevrolet, and you've mentioned that you have an admiration for not just who he was behind the wheel, but who Dale Sr. was away from the racetrack as well. And you're one of the younglings, man. I mean, even me didn't get to see Dale Sr. race live very much. Can you kind of take me into why Dale Sr. is one of those guys that you look up to, not just behind the wheel, but I always find it interesting when you look up to someone outside of what they do as well?
I mean, I think it's kind of an obvious for me. He was way before my time, and hearing plenty of stories from people that are mentoring me right now and helping me progress as a driver and as a young man, about stories about him on and off the racetrack. And I think from obviously what I've read and what I've heard, he was a great man and a great race car driver. So figured what better driver and paint scheme to throw back to than that paint scheme, which looks pretty awesome as well.
Raja, out of faster pairs, largely out of this race. It's pretty much must win now for you next week. Xfinity cars at Auto Club. It's a good combo for you. You got the victory at the Chicagoland, so it's not a great situation to be back against the wall, but do you sort of relish that kind of challenge knowing that combo plays into your favor?
I mean, I'm excited, I guess. I'm not really worried about my pace for next week. I'm just kind of curious as to if something like this, what just happened tonight, will potentially happen again, or Las Vegas with them lap cars. So, I feel pretty confident. I'm excited to go in there with a Game 6 type moment with that pressure, and hopefully, if I can succeed through that, that'll kind of harden me a little bit to help me get ready for situations like that on the real life side of things.
Raj, thanks for the time, and we look forward to seeing you next week go after it at Auto Club Speedway, and you try and win your way into the championship 4.
Thanks, James. See y'all later.
It's Raja Caruth, driver, the number 13, done for the night after that damage. And you can see the damage to the point standing so far as that's concerned. He's the 63 over on the right side of your screen, but it's a 14-point gap for Raja Caruth. So as we've hinted at here, it's just about must win for him with the Xfinity cars at Auto Club. But to his credit, Kenneth Bueno, not only did he win the championship race at the end of season 2, but he's won in those Xfinity cars this season. He got his playoff berth by virtue of victory with the Xfinity cars at Chicagoland Speedway.
I think despite the situation that's gone on here at Michigan and what's going to be noted for Raja when it comes down to next Monday night and what's going to happen with the Xfinity cars at Auto Club, you said it there, that performance with the Xfinity cars, that's going to help a little bit. That's going to soften the blow. It's going to give him that optimism that, hey, at least for the moment, I know I'm behind the wall. I know that this is a very bad situation. But at the end of the day, if I can ball out these Xfinity Series cars, then I'll do just that when we go to Auto Club next week. So we'll see exactly what Raja's able to do. But there's a lot of fighting up front that we have not noted about, James, on this recent restart. Because look who's underneath. Defending champion Will Rogers, Gary Sexton, has looked under, and the 13 machine is going to edge out of the line just barely as they bobble coming to turn 1.
Sexton's got some experience in these 1987 cars. He is not new to the game here and has plenty of pace to go with it. It'll be a firm challenge that he'll give Will Rogers, the defending champion of MNR, but he'll get loose in the corner, and here comes Gabe Wood to the inside once again with playoff driver Robbie Lyons to his outside.
Boy, Sexton going to get eaten up here as Ryan Vargas will now follow suit behind Lyons. But, man, I love the drive of Gary Sexton week in and week out. This is one of the guys when I'm looking at a track that I'm struggling at, I go and I view Gary's in car. He is so smart behind the wheel, always brings so much speed, can always be a spoiler, just barely missed out on the playoffs this year. Gary Sexton, one of those guys that I'm just going, I just want to keep pace with this guy. If I can keep pace with this car, I know I'm going to do all right tonight.
A little bit of contact there just ahead of Sexton as Ryan Vargas goes to the outside of Robbie Lyons, who did not get a good run through turn 2. So Vargas will take the spot. That moves into 3rd. Here we are on board with Anders Krohn, who currently is in 7th, trying to get underneath Gary Sexton for 6th.
And again, we're in the same situation that we saw with Adam Cabot, right, James, to the point where the driver, Robbie Lyons, fighting for the championship, he's in a sea of non-playoff competitors just trying to go for it all, go for the win. And you can note that Robbie Lyons is going to have to be a little bit careful here, because if he's taking notes on all the incidents we've seen so far, including championship contenders, he's going to have to be a little bit wary about the moves that he makes and what's going to happen around him. He's got to fight underneath. Anders Krohn in the 47 is going to look to the inside. Same deal with DJ Cummings. He's the other playoff driver in this situation, but it is still single file about through the top 4 as they continue to use that high line for all the momentum.
This could be very intriguing as they continue to work their way around Michigan International Speedway, working away towards 30 laps to go. And here comes Gabe Wood to the bottom underneath Will Rogers for the race lead. And what a move there from Rogers to get right in front of Ryan Vargas and chop the nose off the 6. I think they touched there down the front straightaway as Vargas fights his way to create a hole the inside and get to the bottom of Rogers. And he might bring James Bickford in tow with him. The Californians nose to tail in the middle of 1 and 2.
Woo! Vargas and Rogers were tight in a lot of ways down the front straightaway. But how about Gabe Wood? He's been riding a high, winning at Homestead, now out front here. And hey, he's got his JD Motorsports teammate right behind him. Wood and Vargas leading the field here at Michigan.
A very, very big move there from Gabe Wood as you go on board with David Schildhouse, who is dead even with Max Kennan for the final spot in the championship 4 as it stands. We've got another race to go, so time to make it up, but it's going to be very interesting. The only certainty we know is that Raja Caruth will almost have to, just about 100% guaranteed, race his way in with a victory next week at Auto Club in the Xfinity cars. I doubt anything else will do for Raja based upon how early he's fallen out of this race and how the rest of the championship contenders are faring so far. So it will be tough for Raja, but everything else is still up in the air as we are down to 30 laps to go here in Michigan.
And to point what Justin Prince said a little bit earlier with David Schildhouse, there's still, at least at that point it was 60 laps to go, but at this point it's 30 laps to go. There's still some time left, and there's a lot of non-playoff competitors in front of you that you can try to take advantage of if you get a long run as you run on board here. This is another competitor to worry about, Adam Cabot. He's the one fighting right now with Shuthouse in this exchange. Only 2 points out, but there's still time left. So it's not like this race is completely over or this race is set in stone. We could have something happen between the top 5 or 6, and that could allow guys like Robbie Lyons, DJ Cummings, or in this case, Shieldhouse or Adam Cabot to come through the field, gain these positions, and gain a lot more points. You can ride on board with Robbie Lyons right here. He's about 5 to 6 points good on the cutoff, and he's just right in the middle of this battle. He does not want to make any risk. He's just tailing with Will Rogers as Bickford continues to look for the race lead. James has not found it. He's going to find it this time in turn 1.
Big move down there to the inside for Bickford. Can he carry the momentum on corner exit, though? That's the question. But look at the right side of the screen, your live points. Robbie Lyons is currently your points leader with all things considered. Garrett Smithley, who was involved in those 2 wrecks and down a faster pair early on in this race, he's still 5 points to the good. DJ Cummings, we've not said a lot about this evening, but DJ Cummings is to the good as well. And David Shieldhouse has raced his way back north of the cutoff line after being on the outside looking in earlier time. How much this shuffles, and we still have over 25 laps to go, so I don't think there's anything certain at all, Devin Henry, about how this is ultimately going to play out, at least at this juncture.
We are running 87s at Michigan. The only guarantee here is carnage and tire wear as Gabe Wood shoves Bickford up to the front of this field. But I'm telling you what, we were talking about Robbie Lyons. What I say, consistency, consistency, consistency. That's all you need to advance in this playoff type system. And he's been riding around this top 5 the majority of this race now. And how about Justin Malillo? He's sitting in 12th right now. Smithley just got around him, but Malillo has been riding in the top 15 essentially this entire race so far. I wouldn't be surprised if the Traction.gg driver might have a couple extra tricks up his sleeve here later on in the race. And Stolick right next to him. He's had some trouble today. Cabot's right behind him. A couple of bounce-back drivers making their way back up out front. And, of course, Smithley was pointing the wrong direction on pit road. He's now inside or almost inside the top 10. And David Shieldhouse, what he tells followers, we got 60 laps to go, and he's up to P9 now.
A measured drive from David Shieldhouse to get back to this as they'll go 3 wide for the race lead once again. And Vargas got tight. He's stuck in the center of this. Rogers down to the inside. Bickford up high. Gabe Wood making the charge down low. And DJ Cummings beginning to work towards the front with Anders Krohn and Robbie Lyons right there behind him. And TJ Majors even just on the far edge, the right side of your screen. He was barrel rolling down the front straightaway at the beginning of this race, and he's now back in the hunt. Runs currently in the 8th position.
He's definitely still in contention for this win, but you can just see the absolute brutality in front of this field. You can imagine Robbie Lyons and DJ Cummings are just shaking in their boots because they do not want to see this hard of a racing up at the front of this field. Side-by-side contact, though. Doors between Vargas and Will Rogers as they come back to turn 3, and that's going to allow Gabe Wood to try and find some momentum in the middle of the corner. Just not going to be able to do it. And look at Anders Krohn to the inside at 3 wide.
They are continuing to go 3 wide non-stop at the front of this as Will Rogers and Ryan Vargas will shade each other down to the bottom, then back to the top on corner entry. Anders Krohn there on the bottom. Gabe Wood in the middle. James Bickford up top. There's TJ Cummings just ahead of TJ Majors as we go on board with Majors' machine. He carries the high side of it too. He'll look to get alongside Robbie Lyons down the back straightaway, but it is almost a restrictor plate-esque pack at Michigan amongst these front cars. Outside of your leaders, they are door to door, just as you would see them if they were at Daytona or Talladega.
Boy, things are looking fun up front. And guys, this is where the line is really going to start to thin. You're still going to be loose because you're driving off that right rear tire, but this is where the tire wear on the right front comes in. This is where you're going to see some guys maybe from further back start to make their move if they conserve, because you really got to get off throttle. You might push a little bit here in the center. Whoever can get on the gas most comfortably on exit is going to gain so much time down the straightaways on this long green flag run.
Big move there to the inside rather for Robbie Lyons, who will try and draw even with the wheel well of Anders Krohn. It's DJ Cummings up top, and he and Krohn nearly get together. So Krohn will slide back in the middle of the racetrack. Here comes TJ Majors underneath in the 22 as more cars get to the inside of Cummings. And look who's all the way down on the bottom. That green and pink and black machine. We've talked about him before. We'll talk about him again. Kenneth Bueno. David Shieldhouse continues to climb up the leaderboard.
you can just watch the Arizona native look at the front, notice everybody racing, and just hang back in there until it's time to shine. He's now ready to attack as he's underneath TJ Majors. He's going to follow in with the 19 of Robbie Lyons. A good situation here because there's 3 playoff drivers manning the inside line with Smithley going to tail in. Cummings is the only one being the outlier here on the outside as Lyons is going to look to the inside of the racetrack. There are still 2 by 2, but it is all but separated for the top 3 as they're 3 wide again. Shieldhouse now going to take advantage of Lyons off turn 4. He's going to have Smithley to help.
Oh, what a bump there from Garrett Smithley. Legitimate bump drafting down the front straightaway. Meanwhile, a reminder that these drivers are running on 75% fuel tanks, and Justin Prince, that's changed some of the calculations as these drivers try and make sure they hit their fuel numbers for the end of this race.
Indeed it has, and keep in mind, for a lot of these drivers, they're all matched up on the same cycle in terms of the gas with the 16.5 gallons that are in the tank. It's projected that these drivers are expected to make it by about 3 laps or so at the moment, so keep that in mind. Fuel not expected to be a major concern for these drivers, but it will be tight.
I don't know about that. 3 laps. I'm a little concerned because I think we might see green-white checkered. At the very least, James, it might have an extra set of tires downstairs.
Maybe. That's something we'll have to notice. We hit the Tufco flooring, 20 laps to go at Michigan in the Maconi setup shop. Michigan Classic. Will Rogers is out in front by maybe 6 or 7 car lengths. He started to gap the rest of this field as you see the battle in the middle of the pack. This is for about 4th, 5th, 6th. Anders Krohn at the head of this pack, but there's a good shot at what the front of this field looks like. Rogers just clear of that trio of Bickford, Vargas, and Wood, and then everybody else from Anders Krohn and Mac trying to race for position.
I think again here, James, we're going to see this affect the accordion start to take place once more. A lot of separation between Rogers and especially these 3 right here with Gabe Woody right on board with his air spanking machine going back to turn 1. But as soon as the run will start to develop, you'll see this pack start to storm in. They've got the draft, they've got the numbers, so they can easily go into this with the head of steam, be able to take advantage of the top 3 that are seemingly side by side, and be able to take advantage, gain all those points. They're wobbling out of turn 2. That was Robbie Lyons who got way out of shape. He's going to lose points and position on the racetrack as David Shithouse is going to take advantage. Here comes Matt Stonick with a dive into turn 3.
That was a big moment for Robbie Lyons as Anders Krohn nearly pinched him into the fence. Lyons had to check up to get out of it to make sure he didn't hit the wall, and he gave up a ton of track position in the process. Big moment. And yes, you look at the point standings, Robbie Lyons, who was in the top 4, now outside of the top 4, just off of that one moment. That is how quickly things can change, and it is a 3-way tie for the final playoff spot at the moment. Devin Henry.
Ryan Vargas down to the inside here, looking for P2, takes it away. Will Rogers almost a second out ahead of these guys, but a couple of JD Motorsports guys, of course, the driver, Ryan Vargas, the tire specialist of Gabe Wood. But James Bickford, boy, really using that cushion, if you will. The high side working out for the 29 is Vargas wiggling that rear end in front of him.
Devin, you're a dirt guy, so I think that's an interesting point because we know about the cushion on the outside of a dirt track, and that's where you want to be, but you use that cushion primarily by driving off of the right rear tire, and you find speed and drive these 87s by driving off of the right rear tire. So if you're running up top, is there a bit of a similarity to a dirt cushion with these 87s, even though we're on pavement?
It's to an extent. The only difference for the most part is sometimes in, say, a sprint car, when you get to the center of the corner, that's when you're really trying to gas it up and use that cushion to sit on. Krohn is really squirrely. He's going to take Sexton with him. Cabot as well. Major incident here just around the top 10.
Yellow flag is out once again in the Maconi setup shop Michigan Classic. There's Brett Baldeck running into Adam Cabot, who is the headline of this incident. Cabot, the playoff driver, in trouble now, and he will have to go to his fast repair for the final 15 or so laps of this race. And Kenneth Plato will get a look at the replay and see what happened. This started with Anders Krohn, and it looks like Gary Sexton in the middle of 3 and 4.
I think if you're Adam Cabot right now, James, you did not want to know that you were in a 3-way tie to keep yourself above the championship 4 cutoff. You could see right there it was Anders Krohn that got it a little bit loosened. I was kind of thinking in my head, James, while they were side by side, just how long it was going to take before either somebody made a mistake, something happened, and an incident came out of it. You saw the contact, I believe it started there with Sexton to Crone. Crone was trying to keep the race car straight. Sexton got into him a second time, and then obviously collects the drivers up ahead, or at least behind them in this group. Adam Cabot, of course, being one of them. Justin Malillo, who Devin mentioned at this point was running well within the top 15. He's got a bit of damage with this as well. So unfortunate for many of these drivers is right there. Malillo looked like he had the clear way, but Cabot just coming back up the racetrack, absolutely nowhere to go. And then you'll see Brett Baldeck trying to make it there, and just unfortunately no space either.
They come down pit road for what could be the final set of pit stops. For these money stops, we will go to Justin Prince.
And keep this in mind with Will Rogers and his situation. This caution helps, but also hurts him at the same time. Helps to be able to think about the fuel situation. He was on 15-lap older tires. Hurts with losing the time cushion on the circuit. But mixed strategies already. David Schildhaus electing to roll the dice along with Garrett Smithley on their tire sets. They're off and away. The first one's off the lane, right side tires. Anders Krone also rolls on through. He's the first driver in front. The rest of the field taking 4.
That is a call and a half from two playoff drivers, David Schildhaus and Garrett Smithley, electing to go with the track position, electing to go with 2 tires instead of 4, and taking the race lead and second place in this Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic for the moment as a result. My guess here, Kenneth Bueno, is that they watched exactly what Brad Perez was able to do earlier. And I think if you're doing this, you're also expecting this race to have a lot of yellow flags to finish this off. I think if you're doing this, you don't think we're going to get more than maybe a 4 or 5 green flag run to end this race.
You hit the nail on the head there, James. The fact that they saw the success of Sexton and Perez up at the front of the field with 2 tires, they know well that they can do the same thing, especially with the playoffs at hand. I like this gamble. It's an interesting gamble for sure because they've got the track position, they've got the clean air. Only problem is everybody's got 4 tires behind them. So it's all about just fending off pretty much Schildhaus Smithley versus the world on this next restart.
Gary Sexton deems the cause of the caution, so he will go to the back of the line. And we will remind you that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing on Podium Esports is brought to you by the Fox Sports app that has changed the game. It's all new. For the top moments, breaking news, original content, and live sports, you can find it all in the new Fox Sports app. Follow your favorite team or sport with mobile alerts and notifications right on your device. You can download the all-new Fox Sports app in the App Store or on Google Play. The Fox Sports app. Get it. Use it. Love it. As the lights are off on the pace car with 14 coming to 13 laps to go. James Pike, Kenneth Bueno, Devin Henry in the booth here. Justin Prince down on pit road. Ryan Bauer, our producer, cameras from Dougie Beard and Devin Henry. We saw a pretty good show in that last green flag run. It's about to get even better as we bring this race to a close.
Man, I'm sitting back in my nice little office chair. I'm grabbing some popcorn because I think we might see someone go to the International Space Station here in the next, 14 laps, four laps maybe. But not even just because of the tire strategy, but because we got them restacked, repacked, and ready to roll them back off under green.
No mercy from any one of these drivers, and especially your 7 in the playoffs. You will want to keep one eye on that leaderboard. It will shuffle immensely over the course of these final 13 laps. Your front 2 drivers on 2 tires, everybody else outside of Brad Perez on 4. How long can David Schildhaus and Garrett Smithley maintain the track position as we go back to green flag racing in Michigan in the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic?
It was already a good story for David Schildhaus because he got the absolute jump in at 1 and 2. Concern was for Smithley. We saw if Rogers was able to peek his nose to the inside. The answer seems to be no, and they're going to keep themselves almost there as everybody wobbles out at turn 2. Still 3 wide behind them, a little bit of smoke behind, but here comes Will Rogers for second, giving the race lead in 3 and 4 also.
Rogers down to the bottom to try and get the lead away from David Schildhaus, who's on that 2-tire rubber. He doesn't have as much grip as Rogers in the 65, who slides around just to keep off of it. What a dive there from Garrett Smithley to go all the way to the apron to try and get the race lead, and they are 3 wide yet again for P1 heading into turn 1. Kenneth Bueno.
And again, 3 wide for the race lead. We've seen this time and time again. The inside going to drift up the racetrack. Watch Ryan Vargas again to the bottom of James Bickford. And they're 3 wide for third as well. almost about contact between many of the drivers. Bit of a door slam there between the top two, but Smithley's got the advantage. The question is, who does he have to help him? Bickford maybe next in line. Shithouse gets fizzled out as he goes back to fourth.
Shieldhouse continuing to run up top. I think he's just trying to save tires for the moment, make sure he's in a decent points position to try and race for the title, as Garrett Smithley is wheel to wheel with Will Rogers for the race lead, and James Bickford is right there waiting to figure out which one of those two will pull ahead and where the room is so that the 29 might be able to make something happen.
A pack of 6 with their Beef Jerky Unlimited pole sitter stalking behind them. TJ Majors still in the conversation as the second pack continues to grow a smidge here behind these guys, but for now, it's the top 6 as Shieldhouse continues to slide back just a smidge. Somehow, some way, Smithley and Rogers keeping it door to door as both of them slide around 3 and 4.
Big moment, and yellow flag out on the racetrack. Trouble a little bit further back in turn 4 as the caution flag comes out once again. Looks like it's Case Gellenbach who's involved. A few more drivers swept up in this Ford Martin with some damage. I see Brett Valdeck in trouble. Seth Eggert, dead center of your screens. Another look at this replay. It started a little bit further back here, but you see Seth just nowhere to go. Right into the back of the 84 of Gellenbach, and trouble at the very back of the field, Kenneth.
And it started right there, James, with Robbie Lyons. I saw his Valvoline machine kind of stranded all on his own. I think he may have gotten hit there in 3 and 4. Maybe Brad Perez will try to take another look at it. You see more cars involved. Unfortunate for Justin Malillo. He gets tagged in this one as well. But you'll see the carnage heading into turns 3 and 4 on the way to the front straightaway. It was this move right about here on the entrance to the 18-degree banking. And actually, no, I think it was contact there between the 19 and the 21. Maxwell Kenning got into him, and then Brad Perez was just trying to sneak by. Everybody else is also trying to do the same thing, but unfortunately, they get collected. And so many drivers involved. You saw it there with Colin back in the 57 of Seth Eggert. Absolutely nowhere to go, and also nowhere to go for Crypto Autosports' Ford Martin here as well.
You'll see what happened to Ford Martin, but most importantly, Devin Henry, this starts with contact between 2 playoff drivers in Max Kinnon and Robbie Lyons.
And Lyons is going to get the far worst end of this entire beatdown. On board here with ESPN's Mike Clay, and you'll see wee bit of smoke, and then you're going to have to find a way to evade this. It's a large track, but it happened so dang fast. Slow-mo on board. You can't see nothing. Up high, down low. Cut, print. Mike Clay able to get through.
I imagine, and Kenneth, I know you know the posters really well, almost like a basketball dunk poster. I feel like Mike Clay's had a few moments tonight where he could just take a screenshot and put a poster up of his car driving through the smoke, because he's had some incredible avoidances tonight in this Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic.
You know what? If I don't see at least one of those misses in a screenshot on his Twitter account by the end of this race, I'm going to be very disappointed, because that is just highlight on his race so far, and the way Clay's been able to just find the space, survive, have the C's part for him, much like a football play, bring the defense out and just find the hole right in the middle for the touchdown. That's where Mike Clay is going, and he's been able to do it well. Fantastic that he's able to keep his car clean, and he's also in the top 15 as well, so that also doesn't hurt.
While we get everybody lined up under the yellow flag, a reminder of some of the upcoming events in the world of iRacing and Podium Esports. A doubleheader for you tomorrow night. Operation eMotorsport heads to the streets of Long Beach on their YouTube channel at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then the final race of the regular season for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series right here at Michigan Speedway tomorrow night. Pre-race at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the iRacing Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels. You will not want to miss that race. We'll find out which 10 drivers will advance and have a shot for the title. Big race for the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series, the 410 Classic from the virtual Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa. This Wednesday night at 9 p.m. on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. And we'll have a doubleheader that evening because qualifying race number 3 for the Retro 500 featuring these 1987 cars at Darlington comes your way both on Wednesday night, 9 and 11 p.m. Eastern on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. Thursday night, it's the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing Series from Rockingham at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, both on twitch.tv/Podium Esports and twitch.tv/Podium 2. We'll have coverage of both races for you across both channels. And then the SimMax Cup Series, powered by Max Pappas Innovations, heads to Martinsville next Sunday night, August 22nd, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time start for that on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. Will Rogers is your race leader with 8 laps to go, as you can sign up for the Retro 500 by visiting that link or using the chat command !Retro 500 if you're watching on our Twitch channel. But it's Will Rogers and Garrett Smithley on the older tires, 2 tires compared to everybody else's 4. Smithley in second and David Schildhouse in sixth. He too on the old rubber. Those 2 playoff drivers both trying to fortify their positions and strengthen their case to make the championship 4. But one quick wave around there, I think that may have been, Brett Baldock who needed to get a wave around, and that will extend the yellow flag by 1 more lap. And you have to believe that for a lot of drivers a little bit further back in this field, Kenneth Bueno, you were just thinking, oh, goodness gracious, as Justin Prince has more.
Yes, this all gets very interesting. Keep in mind, David Schildhouse has made it clear he does not regret the 2-tire call. He does not want to think back on it, and he's talked about how it can work with this car. Now, keep in mind, too, at the time of the caution flag, there was obviously a lot of frustration, too, from the Garrett Smithley camp, where he thought he might have been ahead with how tight it was with the scoring loops. He's got some concern with trying to battle for this race lead with so few laps to go.
Garrett Smithley in third. He's got a good points night in hand as it stands, but it could get wilder as we carry on. Rogers, Smithley, Bickford, Vargas, Wood, your top 5, then Schildhouse, Stolnick, Majors, Brad Perez, DJ Cummings, another playoff driver, top 10. And again, everybody on 4 fresh tires outside of Smithley and Schildhouse. Those 2 on the lesser rubber. They could slide back. They could get loose. We don't exactly know, but it will be interesting here as we line up for what will be the final 6 laps of the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic, unless we get a late yellow flag, and then we'll go into green, white, checker scenarios. We've got 3 of them if we need them. Rogers will wait. Pace car already down on pit road, and he will take off. Go back up through the gears, and we're back to green flag racing in Michigan as they'll file off into turn 1, and we'll see who can run down that 65 machine.
The opposite of the last restart was Schildhouse and the 51 is Smithley. Smithley not able to clear the 29, and Bickford as they come back to turn 1, but it is still packed tight for the race lead. Smithley, remember, he's in championship contention, so he may not want to risk it all here as they still say side by side, a couple drivers in the wall to the back straightaway.
Look at Garrett Smithley with that run to the outside. Everybody's slicing and dicing a little bit further back, but it's Smithley who's got that high lane and the ability to carry the momentum on corner exit if he can stay alongside and stay on the side panel of Rogers Chevy Monte Carlo.
Kenneth, what do you mean might not want to have to put it all out there? Win and you are in. The 51 leads that time by with 5 laps to go. He has Vargas and Schildhouse both behind him. Vargas giving a shove to the 51 into turn 1.
They just will not separate from one another, and Smithley got tight. I almost think that bump hurt more than it helped because Smithley had to check up, and now there goes Rogers clear of Garrett Smithley, and Smithley will try and look to the inside to respond. He goes to the middle with Bickford all the way down at the bottom as they go into 3.
Bickford had that wild push by David Schildhouse on the back straightaway. Look at all of them tight at the exit of 3 and 4. All of them almost made a meeting with the outside safety barrier, and that's going to open the door wide open for the 6 Orion Vargas, the La Mirada, California native. Going to have a shove from Schildhouse. He's going to take it his own manner. He's going to go 3 wide for the lead with 5 to go.
Down to the apron goes Ryan Vargas. David Schildhouse has raced his way right into the conversation with Garrett Smithley to his outside. They continue to battle 3 wide for the race lead as Vargas gets tight, as Bickford gets sideways. Everybody all over the place on the back straightaway, and it's about 3 by 2, maybe the top 6 here if Gabe Wood wants to go to the outside for P1.
Matt Stolnick right there behind him, and don't look now, but Brad Perez. And how about DJ Cummings, one of the playoff drivers looking to get into this mix? Off of 4, 3 to go. Bickford and Vargas still drag racing down the front straight.
Bickford with that good run there all the way into turn 1. Rogers to the outside. Vargas still down to the inside. And Smithley now falling back as Schildhouse continues to creep up.
If you thought the intensity here, James, was already ramped up in this race, well, it has now been brought up all the way to 11. Vargas now to the inside. Bickford with a slash to the outside wall. Gonna hurt his momentum just a little bit, but that inside lane full of playoff competitors and Ryan Vargas gonna charge back. Big shove by Shithouse as Bickford gets out of shape. Here's Rogers to the inside as Bickford falls.
Bickford watches at the racetrack. Vargas got loose out of 4. Shieldhouse had to check up. Will Rogers has got the momentum from behind. He'll go to the outside and maybe, just maybe, get some help as Shieldhouse goes to block. Vargas tries to do the same. Here comes Garrett Smithley to the inside.
We getting wild in Michigan. Arizona's own David Shieldhouse, so close to winning at Homestead, has a chance here. 3 wide with a couple of NASCAR drivers below him and in front of him. Gabe Wood looking to go 4 wide.
Yellow flag out. Trouble a little bit further back in the field. I saw TJ Majors go around out of turn 2. We'll bring the replay up for you momentarily. But green, white, checker racing at Michigan. As you see what happened to TJ Majors on your screens. Big hit there for the 22, and he'll be done for the night. Hearing that there was some contact with Josh Slate in the 1 machine. Kenneth Bueno.
You'll see here, we saw Slate involved in an incident earlier tonight. Same deal with Majors. He went barrel rolling, mind you, off the exit at turn 4. And right there, just the slightest tap by Slate. Obviously not intentional, just washing up the racetrack a bit, but enough to make TJ Majors a little bit uneasy. As you watch right here, look at Gary Sexton. We talked about the misses Mike Clay has had all night. Watch this with the 13 of Sexton as he sees the contact happen. Slate washes up the track. You see Steven Nellis right there, his stickers in Sliff's car, almost getting by. He gets a bit of the contact, but Sexton, what a job to hold on to these brakes. Remember, the 1987 cars, James, they don't have very good brakes. So to see somebody do that in that nick of time is just impressive.
Gary Sexton just able to clear all that madness as the 2 oil machines get into trouble. Thankfully, I don't think there was too much virtual oil left on the racetrack, Devin Henry, but so much we will need to break down as we get set for some green-white checker racing. But before we do, a reminder that tonight's broadcast of this Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic for Podium Esports is brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport. Virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. With over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser-scanned tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. And you can get on track today at iRacing.com. Justin Prince, I will come to you first on this because Garrett Smithley is in a very good position right now. If this race ended, he'd be 17 points clear of the cutoff, but what a decision you have to make if you want to go for that really big points buffer, but maybe still fall out at the end next week, or do you go out there and do you try and just win this whole thing outright?
Well, to put it simply, right before that last restart, he said I should probably take this easy because I'm in a good spot with those points. But then he followed up by saying, I want to win. In our words, Smithley's in the situation where he wants to win this race, even with the point situation. So he is in a spot where he wants to push as hard as he can.
So Smithley having the same debate in his head that I think we're all having, watching his position from our position high atop the virtual Michigan International Speedway. And Devin Henry, if you're that 51 car, what do you do? How do you play this? Because it seems like there are many ways in which you can gain, but there are also so many ways in which you could lose so much ground at the very end of this race.
Well, the first step is already done. He's on the front row. We saw earlier in this race, when he was in the lead, he gapped the rest of the field by about a second. We know for a fact that Rick Ware Racing driver has speed underneath the hood of that throwback 1987 Monte Carlo. He just has to get this restart good. You got to watch Ryan Vargas like a hawk here. And I think he has the speed to run past them. Now the question is, if you get held up by Vargas, Will Rogers is there and about 20 other guys. So you got to hope that you can get that launch. And if Vargas doesn't slide up and take your line away, the 51 has speed to rip around that outside and take this lead.
and that outside lane has enough momentum to where you can make something happen. But the other thing I noticed here before we go green flag racing, Kenneth Bueno, if the two in front of you start racing, you get a good run and you can cut it down from the top to the bottom down the front straightaway. You can draw even with somebody if you're the third car in line and make a 3-wide battle for the race lead.
What the best part about this situation for many of these guys kind of behind the top 5, James, is that they're all packed together in again. They got the separation just a little bit on that last restart and that last run, but now you're here. Now you can go up the gears and you're in the pack style racing once again. So this is going to be monumental for those guys, especially if you're a playoff driver. These last 3 laps are all you have to think about.
First green-white checker of 3 in this Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic. If we get the white, we're racing to the end. If we get the yellow before we get the white, we're doing it again. Ryan Vargas is in control of this, back on the gas pedal. He goes as David Schildhouse and Garrett Smithley are racing for a spot in the Final Four 2 weeks from tonight. And Vargas is going to get a good jump ahead of Rogers, and everybody clear by 1 entering turn 1, Kenneth.
But it's going to be absolutely 0 when they come back to the 18-degree banking. Now look at Smithley. He's got help from Rogers. Does he peek his nose to the inside? He's going to do it at the exit of 2. Does he have the side-by-side momentum? Schildhouse almost gets spun in front of the field. He's able to give it that save, Devin, as they come back to turn 3.
Schildhouse left it all out there. Vargas up front. Here comes Smithley peeking to the inside, door to door. How about Will Rogers still right up on the rear end of Garrett Smithley? This one's tight.
Tight indeed, as Rogers is looking for any room on the racetrack, and Smithley is looking for a spot in the Final Four. Maconi set up shop, 1 to go, 2 wide still as they come back to 1 for the final time.
Smithley, remember, the only playoff driver within the top 3, so all these guys can risk it all if they want to. Rogers now looking to the inside. He's going to give the push. Vargas going to try to get the momentum off the corner. He's going to slam the outside wall for the final time. Wood going to look to the inside, and Rogers going to go side by side.
Garrett Smithley gets the extra burst, but here comes Will Rogers to the outside. Couldn't hook onto that right rear quarter panel. Does make contact. Schildhouse is around. 4-car battle to the line.
Trouble everywhere, and here comes Gabe Wood to the inside. It's Wood down to the bottom as the 65 wrecks behind him, and Gabe Wood is going to clear all the madness to win the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic in a finish for the ages, as everybody just about wrecked behind the 50 car, but Gabe Wood was in the right places at the right times, avoided all the crashes, and look at how the point standing shuffled at the end of that. Garrett Smithley comes home third. He's 14 points clear, and David Schildhouse spun in the middle of 3 and 4, as Devin Henry noted, and he is 11 points out of the cutoff going into next week when we go racing. The Xfinity machines at Auto Club and DJ Cummings and Max Kennan are tied for the final spot in the championship 4 as it stands. What a finish, Kenneth Bueno.
Oh my goodness. It just struck Gabe Wood. He just wins this race, and he goes back to back. Remember, he won last week after Nick Sanchez got into a lot of trouble. Wood was able to slip by. He survived the final minutes of the race, and he was able to take away his first ever Monday Night Racing checkered flag. How about it to do it not only twice, but to do it 2 in a row in this fashion?
Not the first time we've had somebody go back-to-back this season. Shane Van Gisbergen did it early on in Season 3, and then Garrett Smithley did it back last month in order to lock down his playoff spot and his presence in this stage of the going in Season 3 of Monday Night Racing. As you see the air spanking machines, I have to say Travis Brown's going to have a field day. He's got 2 cars that had some pretty good finishes, but let's just go back. We'll run the tape back all the way, let you see how this last lap panned out for Gabe Wood and everybody around the front of this field. And Devin Henry, so much we can talk about, but it starts with Ryan Vargas here on the outside catching the wall out of 2.
And that's what kind of knocks, I thought, Vargas out, but watch Will Rogers really able to get a good run here coming down the back straightaway and just is able to hang on to that right rear quarter. Did he make contact? I think he did just a little bit. That gets the 51 tight. Stallnick gets into the 20. Schildhouse is in the wall. He loses a ton of points, but from the 65 touching the 51, and I don't think Garrett Smithley was too happy about that contact. That is what allowed the 50 to move on, get that extra push from his JD Motorsports teammate Ryan Vargas to get the win. Those two have to be absolutely elated with that finish.
Smithley might not be happy about the fact that there was contact there at the end, but when you consider his position entering next week compared to David Schildhouse, certainly I think you take the 51 spot. You'll get a good look here at Schildhouse and the contact that came from Matt Stolnick, who just pushed up the racetrack and got into the rear of the 20 machine, and then a big hit for both the 20 and the 41. Schildhouse manages to gather it back up miraculously and kept it going on all fours, but big incident there, and this was exactly the kind of thing that Schildhouse needed to avoid. He was in the top 4 entering that last restart. He goes into next week with the Xfinity cars at Auto Club in 6th. It could have been a lot worse, but it was a bad finish for David Schildhouse. Not really his fault. There wasn't really much he could do, just sort of a circumstantial thing with the way Stolnick pushed up into him, but he has a tremendous amount of work in his pocket going into Auto Club next week. Gabe Wood comes through it all to win the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic as Ryan Vargas finishes second. Garrett Smithley, your best finishing championship contender. He was 3rd this evening. 4th went to Will Rogers. 5th went to Brad Perez at the end of it all. Adam Cabot with the good run. Almost the reverse of David Schildhouse. As Schildhouse fell, Cabot took advantage of all the cars wrecking and came home with a top 10 finish. He'll take that. Stephen Ellis was 7th. Gary Sexton 8th. Anders Krohn 9th. And Robbie Lyons, another top 10 for another playoff driver, Kenneth.
Playoff driver DJ Cummings comes home in 11th after all the chaos. Seth Eggert, he had a couple incidents tonight. He's able to survive for 12th. Nice job for him to pick up. Playoff driver Maxwell Kennan will have a little bit to do in 13th at the end of this race. Steve-Ball Font will finish 14th. Mike Clay going to get all of his close calls and his Sea Party moments to the top 15, with Joshua Slate back to 16th. Ford Martin will recover for 17th. Garrett Miller, Justin Malillo, and Michael Massey to your top 20, Devin.
And Massey had that Rusty Walls throwback. He said that's the reason why he drives number 27. Case Kallenbach, the 3rd member of JD Motorsports, brings it home in 21st. Unfortunate ending for David Schildhouse, having to settle for 22nd. Brett Baldeck finishes in 23rd. Drew Welker 24th. James Bickford falls back to 25th. Matt Stolnick, who was a part of that final incident in turn 4 and 26. Your pole award winner, unfortunately 5 laps down for TJ Majors. Stephon Wilson, Rajah Caruth, and Anthony Alfredo round out the top 30. Paul Sutton and Nick Sanchez, your 32-car field here at Michigan.
We'll now bring in our race winner, who I don't think expected to be up here 2 weeks in a row. So we know you were excited after that first win last week in the Porsche 911s at Homestead Miami Gate. But after this finish and the way this thing panned out, where's your head? Where's your heart? Where's your brain at?
Oh, my God. Oh, I don't know which one was better.
Silence after that. Yeah, which in fairness, if it's hard to put words to it, I don't blame you. But can you just take us through that last lap and what you saw out your windshield and how you managed to knife through all that to get the win?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. I don't know. I was hoping to get 3rd. Vargas hit the wall on the backstretch, and he's as soon as he hit the wall, he goes, "I'm in the fence. Get what you can. Get what you can." And I was going to be happy with 3rd. You know, I was sitting 6th, coming to the white or coming to 2 to go, and Will and Garrett go off into 3, and they made just enough contact to give me a little bit of bobble, and I was able to get to the inside of Garrett, and it was amazing. And then I had Vargas pushing me to the front. I mean, it was gnarly.
It was woolly. It was wild. How much fun did you have in this race? We saw some of the best racing we've seen in M&R all year from our perspective tonight. What was it like for you from behind the driver's seat?
That was an absolute blast. I was a little bit apprehensive about the setup during practice, trying to put down a hot lap, but once you were just trying to race people, Maconi put an awesome setup. Just amazing. Like, that thing raced awesome. I have never seen two groove racing like I've seen at Michigan.
Our producer, Ryan Bauer, has slipped along a note to us to remind us that before we went on air tonight, he did predict that he thought you were going to go back-to-back this evening. So, to our producer, who's got his crystal ball working very well, any compliments, thank yous, notes you want to pass back in return?
I mean, thank you, Bauer, and maybe you could predict me to win season 4. I'd take that prediction. It sucks. I've probably got the best average finish in the past 3 races. I'm not in the playoffs anymore. I turn up the heat whenever it doesn't count. That's the one bad part about it.
So then, with the way this season's coming down for you, I think there's no way you're going to be able to look at it as anything other than a strong finish. Does that give you confidence for season 4 coming up?
Yeah, it does. It gives me a lot of confidence going into season 4, and I hope I can continue this. And I hope the racing is like this in season 4, and hope to finish strong here in season 3.
Well, Gabe, congratulations on your 2nd victory in a row. Send your thank yous, your shout outs, and let the people know who is behind this operation.
Well, I got to thank KSDT last week. This week I got to thank Moonhead and Air Spanky. Case and I were running team paint schemes in honor of the 2011 throwback for Red Bull Racing. It's funny enough, Red Bull was invented in 1987, same year as we're running these Cup cars, and AJ Allmendinger got his 2nd career win this weekend, so we thought it'd be appropriate to run the Air Spanky Red Bull mobiles.
And what they do. I know those Red Bull machines back in 2011 had a little bit of experience with non-playoff drivers winning playoff races. I wonder if some of that good luck rubbed off on you all tonight. Congratulations, Gabe, on your 2nd victory in a row. And
real quick, sorry, I forgot to mention Eric Baudouin. He's up in Canada right now, but he's been a supporter of me. He was actually my first iRacing sponsor for this year. He's up in Canada. He's doing what he does, spotting and working on Canadian on Pinty Series cars. So thanks to Eric, and he was the first one to text me after both wins.
Gabe Wood, your winner tonight in the Maconi Setup South Michigan Classic here for Monday Night Racing. 2nd place this evening, La Miradas, California. Ryan Vargas is with Kenneth Bueno.
Here with 2nd place, Ryan Vargas. Don't think that's the probably expected way to finish over the wall and getting into the contact. But nonetheless, Vargas, we talked in the Simax Cup Series race of the Next Gens at Kansas, and you talked about how wild that was with all the draft. Is there a fitting description to give with this kind of race, this kind of style, and especially that kind of finish?
Yeah, I mean, the draft was so massive down the straightaways. If you were leading, you were a sitting duck. And once Garrett got to my inside there, I kind of knew I was in a bad spot because you could kind of muscle your way past people. That's kind of how I was able to get by people. Like, you guys probably saw me do some pretty gnarly sends going 3 wide on the bottom and just clearing up. I mean, I was able to. If you had enough clearance on the bottom, you were able to wash up. But nonetheless, the Swan Security Chevy looked good up front. But felt good to lead a bunch of laps, race with all these buddies. Gabe, Garrett, Smithley, Will, a lot of buddies up front. It was just a really good time.
I can tell it was probably a really good time, especially as you had JD Motorsports' Gabe Wood winning the race. You had him right there in front of you. But nonetheless, I mean, a lot of conversation surrounded this race. This race was initially going to be won at Darlington. They switched it to Michigan with these same cars. And it seemed like, for the most part, you had this all handled through. It seemed like no matter what the decision was made, you were able to come up through the field. You were able to be aggressive and fight for the race lead. Did this change in the schedule kind of help you a lot, especially given that we were supposed to be at the track Too Tough to Tame and now we're at the Irish Hills?
I mean, it didn't really matter to me. I'm really good at Darlington on iRacing for some reason, so I was kind of hoping we'd be there. But the change to Michigan kind of works out for me since we're racing Michigan this weekend anyways. I mean, I know this isn't going to relate in any way, shape, or form, but it's still nice to get laps on a track I'm going to be on and have fun doing so.
Well, you say laps here. You've got real laps in a NASCAR Xfinity car and a sister track in Auto Club in your home state. So how do you feel about potential chances there to win that one and win it in front of your, I guess, virtual home crowd next Monday?
Man, we'll see. I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. I mean, anytime I get the chance to drive the B car, I think it's a shot for me to win. I drive nothing but B class throughout the week, so I'm excited to see how it goes. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, it was a lot of fun here tonight. Know that it's going to be a lot of more fun going into the last couple of races. Ryan, congratulations on your second place finish. A fantastic race driven from start to end, and hopefully we'll be able to see you at your home track next week at Auto Club ripping in the Xfinity cars.
Thank you. That was fun.
Ryan Vargas having a lot of fun. He ends up P2 at the end of the night in his Swan Security Chevrolet Monte Carlo. But one driver who was in the playoffs, still in the playoffs, swept the first round, was right there to victory, had a shot at it. Still a fantastic finish. Devin, you're caught up with the driver who finishes P3, Garrett Smithley.
Yeah, the Rick Ware Racing driver, 10 points above the cut line, leading the points going into the semifinal next week. But Garrett, I know that you wanted to be locked into that championship battling for that lead. A fair amount of contact there on that last lap as everyone duked it out, and you had the most to lose. Take us through that final lap.
Yeah, honestly, I probably would have raced that a little bit differently if I had not had the championship hanging in the balance. Man, what a crazy race! It was up and down. We got the lead early and was running away from it or with it. Got out to about 0.7 of a second lead, just kind of riding. I was honestly surprised because I really wasn't pushing it that hard, but those guys seemed like 2x2 behind us. So I was pretty happy with it. Felt like we had a good shot to win this thing, and unfortunately got dumped early and then got caught up in another wreck after that. So I used my reset, and I feel like I did have some damage. I had 1.5 minutes damage that I had to fix. So I feel like our car really wasn't that fast. But luckily we were able to slice through the traffic and get back up there. And yeah, like you said, I mean, there's so much on the line right now trying to get to Homestead. So I just really wanted to bring this thing home clean and almost had it. Little contact there on the last lap, getting into 3. Unfortunately, didn't get the win, but didn't get wrecked either. And we're in a pretty good spot going to Auto Club, which I'm so excited for. So all in all, pretty good day for us.
And our pit reporter, Justin Prince, heard you talking about before the last restart, hey, I should probably take this easy because I'm in a good spot, but I want to win. Obviously, there were a lot of close calls here, there, a little bit everywhere. Take me through the just pure exhilaration of the heart rate. I know this was supposed to be a Darlington, but then at one point you dropped the entire elevator shaft going about 5 rows down on the track, looking to make moves. Take me through just what was this race like from a heart rate perspective?
Yeah, I wish I was wearing my my heart rate strap that I wear in the real car, because I'm sure it spiked several times. You know, we're racers, right? I mean, when we put the virtual helmet on, regardless of what's going on, we kind of lose our minds sometimes, and we want to win. I mean, that's what we're here to do. So yeah, I did say that that I wanted to take it easy. I should have taken it easy, but of course, when you see a clean track in front of you and there are a couple cars in front of you and a clean track in front of them, and you feel like that you have the car to do it, you're going to take that chance. So a lot of beating and banging. Honestly, kudos to Will and Vargas and Shieldhouse and all those guys up front. We ran super clean. You know, I was frustrated with the contact on the last lap by Will there, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to win the race. We all ended up running pretty clean, and that was probably one of the most pressure-packed, high-octane, high-intensity races that I've been a part of in Monday Night Race League. So all in all, I can't be too upset. Like I said, 3rd place, beating and banging. It was fun. I'm sure the broadcast loved it, and I know my stream loved it too. So yeah, we'll go on to Auto Club, and we'll hopefully have some fun there.
Well, you sure helped put on an exhilarating finish here at Michigan. Who else do you have to thank you for picking up a podium position and leading the points going into the semifinal?
Yeah, I guess that can't be lost on me too, that we're leading the points going into the second to last race. So I'm pretty excited about that. Trophy Tractor, as always, for coming on board for this race, and Seed Victory Lane. Shout out to D Natters, Dylan Nataway. He does all my iRacing paint schemes, and there was no inspiration from this. He just kind of came up with it all by himself. So kudos to him. Big weekend for me in the real world, going to Michigan. We're coming off a really awesome 28th place finish at the Brickyard. If you guys are anybody out there watching, if you're in town in Michigan, Flat Rock Victory Lane Quick Oil Change, we're going to be out there doing autographs and hanging out before the race, and you got a chance to win tickets and get some merchandise from me and Victory Lane. So if you're in the area going to the Michigan race, come on out, Flat Rock Victory Lane Quick Oil Change. If not, we will see you guys next week going to Auto Club, and y'all have a good week.
The Rick Ware Racing driver putting out the invite. Congrats on the top 3 finish, Garrett.
So, how this changed on its head at the end of everything. And also worth noting, we can't confirm from race control that Max Kennan was given an end of lap penalty at the end of that race for changing lanes before the start finish line on that final restart. So these were the live points on the right hand that you see as they finished. Kennan, who finished 13th, drops all the way to 26th and loses a tremendous amount of points in the process. So I suspect he will probably be somewhere in the ballpark of about maybe 13-ish points back, 12 points back officially going into next week. David Schildhouse will gain a point, but at the end of the day, how intriguing, how interesting that these are going to be some races that we're going to have to see from Schildhouse and Kennan and Carruth, because we do have updated points proper that you see, and that's your story going into the final race of the round of 7, the penultimate race of the season. It's a driver's favorite combo, Xfinity cars with Auto Club Speedway, and how nuts it'll be. Kennan gets the penalty, Carruth gets the wreck early, and Matt Stolnick overdrives the final corner, gets into David Schildhouse and spins Schildhouse around and ends up putting Schildhouse deep in a hole. So you've got 3 very hungry drivers who almost certainly are going to have, I would say in some cases, the win is the only option. Mathematically, it isn't. You could, in theory, make it, but realistically, I think it's 3 drivers fighting for 1 win amongst that bunch, and even then, you've got the other 4 who could go out and win that race as well and lock down a spot in the championship for outright and steal one from somebody outside of the cutoff. Regardless of what happens, regardless of the permutations, the combinations, Kenneth Bueno, we are in for a show in Los Angeles next Monday night.
We are, and we had a fantastic finish to know with this same combo in kind of a same scenario in the playoffs. So who's to say we can't have another good finish in Auto Club coming to next Monday night? And tonight, I think as a sister track, this is a note to be taken from any of these guys. Obviously, the 1987 cars, they're a whole different beast from the current NASCAR Xfinity Series machines. But you have to deal with the tire wear, you have to deal with the momentum, you have to deal with the grip differences that were given on these tracks. So Auto Club is kind of a page away from what Michigan was tonight. A fantastic race from start to finish. Great racing all around. Big wrecks, lots of intensity, and that only makes the playoff fight so much more important. You said it there, 3 drivers in a spot that they pretty much need a miracle. They need to grab the checkered flag to win. If that's not an enticing way to try and finish a round of 7 to go to the championship 4, then I don't know what is.
The other thing that I noticed tonight, Devin and Henry, just with my spot here at the virtual booth, I noticed my own heart rate and anxiety intensity levels escalate as this race progressed in a way that I haven't felt in a while with an iRacing event. And if that's how tonight was for me, and I would assume for Kenneth as well, what can we expect next week from our spot or from the drivers even? You can feel the pressure that these playoffs present to these drivers, and it was present throughout this race all the way tonight.
I mean, I think I'm going to be more excited that I'm in the car next week because my blood pressure won't be as high as your guys's, because you'll be freaking out. Me back in 25th, I'm usually pretty chill, just kind of hanging out back there. But for the drivers up front, yeah, it's going to get dicey. You're not going to see exactly as loose as they were tonight, but you're still going to get that wacky pack racing where anyone can pass at any instant. And when you look at a combo like this, a lot of guys think it's easy, but because it is more favorited, because I don't want to say it's easier, but maybe it's less technical, it makes that fine line of your braking zone on entry so much more difficult to get perfect. And so you're going to see those drivers who have the experience really get that great entry and exit on the corner, where other drivers who don't have that experience, it is a difficult corner to get into to carry that momentum to the corner. And I will disagree with both of you guys. I don't think anyone is safe. Garrett Smithley's only 10 points above the cut line. He doesn't need 7 cars to pass him. He just needs 4. That's all that needs to pass him. David Schildhouse, 10 points behind. I think they can make a little bit of effort there, get up passing cars. Max Kennan, I don't think he's out of it. 12 points behind. Raja Karu, he's in a bit of a pickle. I wouldn't be surprised to see that man walk it off next week. I think that it would not be surprised to get P7 in victory lane. That's going to shake everything up, guys.
You look at the stats, you look at what we've done in the Xfinity cars this year, and how fitting that we enter a race that cuts off a playoff round with an Xfinity car, and the driver who currently is last in the playoff standings may well have the best shot to win the race entering next week. Only on Monday Night Racing can you find drama like this. But before we get to what will be an unbelievable race next week, we've got some events coming up this week in the world of iRacing and Podium Esports to tell you about, including Operation eMotorsport from the streets of Long Beach tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, on the Operation Motorsport YouTube channel. Then the regular season finale for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series from right here in Michigan, Tuesday night, August 17th, 8:30 p.m. Start time on that. The iRacing Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube channels are where you need to head. A Wednesday night doubleheader between the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series 410 Classic at the virtual Knoxville Raceway. That's at 9 p.m. And then qualifying race 3 for the Retro 500 at 11 p.m. on Wednesday night, all on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. And you can register for the Retro 500 by visiting podiumesports.com/Retro 500 or use the chat command !Retro 500 to bring that up if you need to. Then you've got the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing Series from Rockingham Thursday night. 2 races, 2 places to watch. The Podium Esports and Podium 2 Twitch channels, 9 p.m. this Thursday, August 19th. And then the week concludes with the SimMax Cup Series powered by MPI from Martinsville Speedway, Sunday night, 9:15 p.m. Eastern on the Podium Esports Twitch channel before we are back next Monday night, August 23rd, for the next to last race of the season. It's the Xfinity cars at Auto Club Speedway, and we are going to find out which drivers will be competing for the Monday Night Racing Season 3 Championship. You will not want to miss that race. It is time for us to close our broadcast out of the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic here for Monday Night Racing and the Monday Night Racing Season 3 playoffs. For Fort Martin, Paul Sutton, Josh Mendoza at Monday Night Racing. For our team at Podium Esports behind the scenes, Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. And for our broadcast team this evening, our camera builder, Dougie Beard, our producer, Ryan Bauer, our pit reporter this evening, Justin Prince, and my colleagues in the booth, Kenneth Bueno and Devin Henry. I am James Butt, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching our broadcast of the Maconi Setup Shop Michigan Classic for Monday Night Racing at iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway. Congratulations to our winner, Gabe Wood, and we will see you next Monday night to find out which 4 drivers will race for the Season 3 Monday Night Racing Championship.